Masters at 4 on Sky Sports Extra.
This is Sky Sports.
It's the closest Indy Championship in a decade, and at least 5 drivers have a chance of taking the title. Penske Racing's Helio Castroneves heads the title chase, but his teammate Sam Hornish is just 8 points behind. Their Target Ganassi team rivals Dan Weldon and Scott Dixon are very much in touch, while Brazil's Vitor Meira may not have won a race all year, but mathematically he's still in with a chance. So with this race and just 2 more to go, there's everything to play for in the Meijer Indy 300 from Kentucky Speedway. Hello and welcome to a critical race in this year's action-packed and exceptionally close Indy Racing Series. This week we're back on the most popular track configuration. It's a 1.5-mile oval, the Kentucky Speedway, one of the newest ovals in the USA. Well, qualifying at the very front here isn't considered essential, but nevertheless all the key players are at the front. Plus we have an all-girl 6-row on the grid. Plenty of stories too, and to discuss those I'm joined in the studio by 2 of Britain's leading IndyCar observers, journalist Tim Scott first of all, and next to him from the Motorsport Industry Association, John Kirkpatrick. Welcome to both of them. But before we talk to them, let's first of all catch up with the headlines. Well, Helio Castroneves recorded his 3rd consecutive pole position. He'll start alongside his teammate and championship rival Sam Hornish. Dan Weldon is looking strong, 3rd in the series. A win tonight could put him right back in contention. Andretti Green Racing have at last found a good setup for the 1.5-mile tracks, and Dario Franchitti will start 6th. And Sarah Fisher returns to the series for the first time in 2 years. She starts alongside Danica Patrick. So let's start with Tim and first of all ask him about that all-girl 6-row. Sarah Fisher making her return after being with the struggling Dreyer and Rainbolt team tonight, but great publicity for the series. How did this come about? You got the 2 girls side by side.
Well, Dreyer and Rainbolt lost their full-time driver Buddy Lazier. There was a seat available. They know Sarah from old. They were the team that ran her before in the series. And she's been in the wilderness for a couple of years doing regional stock cars. In that time, Danica has taken her mantle as the female storyline and raised it up a few notches to global levels of publicity. But this is a nice new twist on the female story, and it's lovely that they're side by side on the road.
Is this going to sort of make headlines for this race? Is this what it's all about, really? Basic publicity, apart from being a nice story?
Well, it's a good story, certainly in the run-up to the race. I think afterwards, maybe the result will be the key thing. But for Sarah, it's a real opportunity because she was rather jilted, and Danica came in as she went out at the end of 2004, coming to 2005. And for Danica, Danica really took the mantle from her, and this is a chance for Sarah to prove that she's worth her place in the series as well.
Absolutely, John. Good to have you back with us in the studio. Let's ask you about this vital race, particularly for Dan Weldon. It's very important for him. A win is perfect, isn't it?
Yeah, he's had one of those seasons. He's led more laps apart from Hornish than anyone else. I was at Indianapolis and watched him lead 148 laps and yet finish 4th. A couple of weeks later at Texas, he led all bar 29 laps, so he's quick at the wrong end of the race, and he's just got to put that right. I hope he does it tonight.
Now let's just come back to you, Tim, because Helio Castroneves, he's looking for his 2nd successive victory. Winner, of course, in that rain-delayed Michigan event, but that was 2 weeks ago. But now heading Sam Hornish in the series by only a few points. So no team orders at Penske, but is there any tension at all between the 2 teams?
Well, there's bound to be.
2 crews?
There's bound to be. It's notching up for the end of the season.
Yeah.
Both drivers are allowed to race each other as hard as they like. Obviously, there's a rule that you don't take each other out. But within the Penske camp, Roger Penske calls the race strategy for Sam Hornish.
Right.
Team president Tim Cindric calls the strategy for Helio Castroneves. But just because Roger's on one of the cars, he may be the boss, but they get equal everything. And as far as he's concerned, once the green flag waves, it's the best man wins. So
right. Okay. Well, we can now cross to the raceway, and we can now hear this interview.
Well, last time out at Michigan, it truly was the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat for the Marlboro Team Penske drivers. Elio Castroneves picking up his 4th win of the year, and Sam Hornets a disappointing 19th place finish with a mechanical failure. But today, for the 5th time this year, they start on the front row side by side here at Kentucky. And I got to ask you, Elio, points leader, 31 points separate the top 4. How does that impact your strategy here today?
Well, obviously last race, I mean, in Michigan, we were kind of down, so we went very aggressive. It did seem to work a little bit, so we're going to continue in the same way. We're going to work with Sam again. Hopefully, he won't have any problem, and we're going to be all the way to the end.
You know, their car owner, Roger Penske, is all about cooperation and working together. But, Sam, 8 points separate you two guys. At what point do you guys stop being teammates and start being competitors?
Well, actually, we're always competitors, but, obviously we both want to win, and we're going to push each other very hard out there. But the thing that we have to look at is, Elio gained a lot of points on me last week, but so did Weldon and Dixon. And if Scott didn't have his problem, I probably would be 3rd right now. And the main focus is to make sure that Roger gets a championship, whether it's myself or Elio that does that, one of the two. So we just need to be smart out there. And 8 points isn't a whole lot. So, we're just going to go out there. We're going to try to have a strong finish today. And Roger always says, may the best man win, but don't bring him back on the hook if you guys have a problem. So.
Those are the orders from Roger Penske. Don't wreck each other, but everything else is okay. Race wheel to wheel. And guys, if there was no one else in the field here today but these two alone, this race will be worth watching because they're going to roll off when the green flag waves, 10 feet apart on the starting grid, but 8 points apart in a race for a championship.
We told you it was a good story. We're hearing about it from Tim, and there's the latest, so obviously watch that one. Let's go back to the studio guests. And John, all season long, of course, Dario Franchitti and indeed the other Andretti Green drivers have been complaining about not having quite the right setup for these type of tracks. And obviously, Dario could certainly do with the victory this season, couldn't he?
Yes, he could. You have to question the burden of running 4 cars. They're up against the two-car teams that have been setting the pace all along. And I know Tony Kanaan is delighted with the setup today, but that was a setup Dario has worked out. So, but, Dario has, since his accident, in his motorcycle accident a couple of years ago. Whether he's not quite as hungry, I'm not sure, but he could do with a good result. That's for sure.
Dario's quick here, but his teammates haven't been, so this is maybe a good sign for him, but not for the team.
Well, Kanaan has qualified just in front of him.
Yeah.
But Marco is way off the pace, bringing up the tail of the field. But running 4 cars is a burden for any team, and I think it's probably true that they didn't have to do quite so much last year when they were the only Honda team. Now they're really having to play catch up, and they're struggling to do so.
Okay, Tim, let's come back to you. You were at this facility last year. You're at the race. It's obviously relatively new. Tell us a bit about it. What's it like for the drivers and spectators? What sort of race are we going to see?
Well, it's a classic 1.5 mile oval, high banking, really built with NASCAR stock cars in mind, but this open wheel single seaters run at high speeds here. Expect to see 2, possibly even 3 abreast racing, because there are several lines, because it's 14 degrees banking, which lends the car centrifugal force, which means that they don't need all their downforce, which means they can move around the track quite easily. But it's always a balancing act for the engineers, juggling how much downforce you have to cope with being in traffic and how quick you want to be.
Yeah, and we've got good dry conditions forecast. There's not really, a touch wood at the moment, too much worries about rain. It looks like it's going to be pretty quick, doesn't it?
I think so. It's in the 80s. We're not expecting any rain, cloudy, and generally speaking, we don't get a lot of yellows here. So they run 2:15. We expect a quick race.
Let's hope they're not famous last words, eh? Tell you what we're going to do now. We'll bring you the latest from Dan Weldon. Here he is.
Scott's been very quick, so you know what? It might be my day today, but if not, I'll make sure that Scott can try and beat the Penskes because he helped me a lot at Michigan, so we'll see.
For this team, it's all about pursuing the top of the line, Team Penske. But when you are the pursuer, sometimes you can take chances that others can't.
So there we go. Quick word from Dan Weldon. Obviously the race action getting underway fairly soon. It's got to start very soon. The green flag will be waved very shortly. Right now we're going to take a quick break. Hello again and welcome back to this, the 12th of the 14 rounds of this year's Indy Racing Series. Defending champion Dan Weldon, we heard from him a moment ago. He's still in with a chance to make it back-to-back series wins, but of course he must beat the Penskes of Elio Castroneves and Sam Hornish at Kentucky today in a 200-lap, 300-mile race backed by the supermarket chain Meijer. Tim, just before we cross to the States, let's get your prediction. How do you see this race going?
Well, you'd think it's going to be a Penske-Ganassi battle, no prizes for that, but I would love to see Dario Franchitti come through and take a win.
That's where your 10p is.
Yeah,
we'll have a sweet
but only 10p.
Only 10p. And what about you, John?
Well, I can only echo Tim's sentiments, but Dixon's been going very quick in practice, so I'm going to go for Dixon just to be different.
Okay, thank you boys very much indeed. As you can see, we're now seeing live pictures from the States. And this is Sarah Fisher. Let's listen to that.
That is an awesome feeling. I'm having a great time, and we're looking forward to the race today.
Little extra incentive here. As a thank you to her fans for sticking by her, she allowed them all to sign her helmet. They will be riding along with her today.
And she will start outside row 6 with that autographed helmet. Actually, she said she got the helmet so late to get it painted. She said, I'll just have my fans sign it for me.
Well, it looks pretty good. She did it. Yeah, I know she's really ready. She's looked forward to this, getting back into IndyCars for quite some time. She's really wants to have a good day today. She's with a team that hasn't had such a good year, so maybe she can help them turn their year around too.
They actually came down to test here on Thursday and actually got some setup help from the Ganassi team to make sure she'd be competitive here this afternoon. So once again, for the fifth time this season, we have an all Penske front row with the Penske drivers of Elio Castroneves and Sam Hornish. In fact, Castroneves now has his 3rd straight pole position, his 5th overall for the season, his 16th of his career. And Sam Hornish, who won this event 2 years ago, is now 2nd in the point standings. In the 2nd row on the inside, Dan Weldon with 1 win this year is 3rd in the points. And outside Tony Kanaan, former champion, he has 1 win this season. He is 6th in the point standings. In the 3rd row on the inside, Scott Dixon, of course a 2-time winner this season. He is now 4th in points. And outside for Andretti Green is Dario Franchitti, and he is 8th in the point standings. In the 4th row on the inside, Koski Matsuura and Ed Carpenter, who continues to improve with his qualification efforts, will start outside in the 4th row. In the 5th row, this is the car rebuilt from this morning's crash. Vito Mira, who's finished 2nd 3 times this season. And Scott Sharp, who was the victor here 1 year ago, will start outside. And there's the row we're all watching. Danica Patrick, the 24-year-old. Sarah Fisher, the 25-year-old. The ladies will start side by side in row 6. In the 7th row on the inside is Brian Herta for Andretti Green. Buddy Rice announced just this week that he's a free agent. He will not return next year to Ray Hall Letterman. He's looking for a new ride. Jeff Simmons, for the 3rd time this season, will start in the 15th position, a rookie, alongside Jeff Buckman, his best qualifying effort for A.J. Foyt after joining this team a few races ago. Thomas Scheckter, by comparison, his worst start of the season. They've changed 2 Honda engines this weekend. Marco Andretti didn't qualify well, but he was faster in the morning practice session. Rounding out the field will be Marty Roth in car number 25, starting in the 19th position.
Yeah, and this should be a very interesting race. We'll see if the Team Penske can continue to dominate like it has for the last 2 or 3 races. I don't know. It's going to take some pretty big efforts. This is a 644-kilometer race. The pit window about 50 laps, somewhere before lap 52, I think. Of course, Castroneves sits on the pole, and boy, it's going to be interesting to see if he can just kind of pull away from everybody. The first 15 cars are within 31 100ths of a second in this morning's practice, so it's going to be hard for anybody to just pull away and lead this thing. Pit stops, they're going to be very important, especially if they come under the green, because you want to get back out very, very quickly. Any miscues in there, which Dan Weldon can tell you, can cost you a race. Handling, you've got to have a good handling car at this racetrack. You're flat out all the way around. If you have to lift, you're going to be in trouble. And this racetrack has always been a bumpy racetrack. They resurfaced it a couple of years ago. They've ground it to make it smoother, but there's still some bumps out here you've got to contend with.
Well, you can see the sunshine. It's a mild day, low humidity, no wind to speak of. Just a beautiful day for racing. And with 3 races to go, it's a points championship battle among 5 different drivers. 50 points up for the leader, or we should say the winner, with 3 bonus points for the driver that leads the most laps. Of course, if I was going to say, if Castroneves can win 1 more pole before the season is out, he will tie Billy Boat for the most poles in the season. So we set back in '98. Look at that big jump he gets as they come off the corner.
Yeah, he picked up the throttle pretty quick. I think Sam Hornish just decided to let him go and fall in behind him. Further back, we're 3 wide, though.
And we'll see how Vitor's car will run, because not a chance to check that after changing, actually rebuilding the front suspension on that orange number 4.
Yeah, they had to put the front suspension on both the left and right sides of that car, so the whole front end is brand new on that car. It looks like he's not too bashful, though, as he's hanging right in there.
Of course, he's finished second 3 times this season. Speaking of Vitor Mirage, you're right along with the number 26 of Marco Andretti. He started near the back of the pack, and already he is on the fly.
Yeah, Marco Andretti is a guy who's really had trouble qualifying the last 3 times out. He started way in the back. He's been very upset each time he's done that, and he's come back.
That move by Sarah, if you will, right in the middle. Sorry, Larry, I jumped in there because she just kind of squeezed in between 2 cars.
Well, he's come back after poor qualifying the last couple of times and done very well.
Now you're on board with Sarah. And Sarah right now in the 11th position. Danica's out in front of her. And so we'll keep an eye on both these young ladies.
You can see a lot of shifting going on back here in the traffic. These engines have a very narrow torque range, about 98 to 10,300. If you get below 9,800, 9,900, you're going to see them shift down into 5th gear till they get going again.
Scott Sharp looks to the high side of Sarah Fisher. Last year we had the 4 leaders, and that was the least. The most back in 2000 with 9 different leaders. But right now, Kastronevich leading his teammate Hornish. Weldon is 3rd, Dixon 4th, Kanaan is now in 4th position. Now keep in mind, so far this season, Penske drivers have led 49.7% of all the laps. Hornish has led 29%, Kastronevich some 20%, and the Ganassi drivers have led 31%.
Well, Dan Weldon's been complaining all weekend of a loose race car. You heard him say that he wasn't real happy with his car earlier, but right now he's hanging right with those 2 cars that have been the fastest 2 cars all weekend.
Look at Hornish on the inside on lap 6. Hornish wants the lead, and he takes it.
Wow. Well, Roger told him not to bring him back on the hook, but right there he wanted the lead. He went for it. He got it. So obviously he's not going to wait around if he thinks he's got a faster race car.
Well, you heard Kastronevich say he had to be competitive and aggressive at Michigan. It worked out for him. And he said, let's try it again here today. But right now, Hornish is the aggressor.
Well, those first 4 cars have pulled away from everybody else just a little bit. Tony Kanaan now battling with, looked like they almost touched.
And that's the number 20 of Carpenter.
As Carpenter got to the outside, it looked like they almost touched coming off there. It scared Tony enough that he jerked the wheel and got away from him. But here's Mira with Franchitti just a little ways back. As you can see, everybody else pretty much still is in a group back there except those first 4 cars.
Well, Sam Hornish is now your leader over Kastronevich. Weldon is still 3rd. 4th is Dixon. 5th is Carpenter. By far the best ride we've seen this early in a race for Eddie Carpenter. And he's been showing steady improvement in qualifying.
Yeah, he certainly has. Right now, though, you can see Kanaan following Carpenter, trying to figure out a way to get back around him as Carpenter snuck up on him on the outside. I don't think Tony knew he was there, and they almost drifted together.
Well, looking at Thomas Schechter, he's in the 14th position right now. They changed 2 engines in that car, one yesterday, one this morning. They have really struggled on the well, now here's Kanaan and Carpenter about 3 laps ago.
Yeah, they came off the corner. And yeah, it looked like Kanaan started to go up the racetrack, didn't realize that Carpenter was that far up, and just jerked the wheel. It didn't make contact, but it was very close.
And jerking a wheel that much can really upset that chassis and wreck the car.
Yeah, but he got way closer than he wanted to be coming off of that corner.
This is the battle for 5th position. That is Carpenter in the black and silver number 20, the Vision entry. And right behind him, the number 11 of Kanaan.
That's Matt Sura on the outside trying to make it 3 wide. And then, of course, Vitor Mira right in there along with Franchitti.
And Sharp has a great view back in the 10th position. Marco has moved up to 11th after starting near the back of the pack. In fact, Marco started this race in 18th position. He's picked up 7 spots.
And you can see, as we've talked about before, the 2 Penske cars are now ever so slightly pulling away from the 2 Ganassi cars.
We told you that they've led 49% of all the laps this season, continue to dominate here at Kentucky this afternoon. So 2 Penske's and 2 Ganassi drivers in the top 4. And 5th is Eddie Carpenter, 6th is Kanaan, 7th is Matsuura, 8th is Franchitti, 9th is Sharp, and 10th is Vito Mira.
Yeah, and those first 4 cars just continue to pull away from the rest of the field. We've talked before about what these guys did last year to be competitive with the Honda engines and how much it's paid off. And here again today, I think we're seeing exactly that same thing. Rick Mears has told us that it's all the little things, every little thing that you do. When you put them all together, it makes up a big difference.
Well, they did the little things last year to begin with, Larry, to make that Toyota competitive with the Honda, and at some point it was.
Right.
And now that they have the extra horsepower, all the little things they did last year are paying big dividends this year.
Well, and that's exactly right. And it appeared that maybe some of these other guys had caught up a little bit. It looked like maybe Andretti was getting his act together and going to be able to run with them a couple of times, but here today it doesn't appear like it. It appears like once again those 4 cars are just head and shoulders above the field.
Well, you're watching Marco, who has now put himself in the top 10. He is now in the 10th position in car 26 after starting in 18th. He goes around Vito Mira and pulls away from Vito Mira. And now he starts to set sail for Scott Sharp, who's starting his 127th IndyCar Series event. Live coverage as Sam Hornish continues to lead his teammate, and the 2 Ganassi drivers, Weldon and Dixon, back in 3rd and 4th position. As you take a look at the rest of the top 10 after 15 laps. The 200-lap event, great crowd on hand. In fact, we got here 5 or 6 hours before the event, and there was a huge crowd this morning.
Yeah, 6 hours before, and there was a lot of people here then. Scott Sharp, he's running in 10th place right now. Adrian Fernandez, his car owner here, he has not made all the races, but he decided to come down and take part in this one. And of course, Scott would love to get a victory here. There's Adrian Fernandez right there, watching his drivers, both Coxie Matsuura and Scott Sharp.
It's got to be tough for a race driver / owner to be in the pit area watching somebody else out there racing.
Right. And really, Matsuura qualified very, very well. Got a good start, but he's fallen back a couple of spots right now, back into 7th. Scott Sharp, on the other hand, on the very start, he fell clear to the back. He got way high. I'm not sure whether he had a little scare, got out of the throttle or what, but he fell clear to the back of the field. And now then he's working his way back up. But it's
Mira now is closing in. You see Mira in the orange car, and there's Andretti. Andretti continues to run toward the top. Here's for the lead. Andretti in 9th position, but this is at the front of the pack. Castroneves wants that lead back.
Wow, those guys are really going after it. And while they're out there running side by side, they give the 2 Ganassi cars a chance to catch up with them. And that's Ganassi guys are loving this, because this is the way that it gives them an opportunity. When they were running single file one-on-one, they pulled away to about oh boy, they're getting close too. They pulled away to a little bit of a lead, but now that they're running side by side, and look at this. Weldon's going to go to the outside, make it 3 wide. I don't know how this is going to work. Looks like it's working pretty good so far.
Well, Penske was not happy this morning because that team is impeccable. And guess what? In that morning session, they didn't put enough fuel in Hornish's car. It rolled to a stop, and they couldn't figure out what the problem was. They were almost too embarrassed to say we didn't have enough fuel.
They did not want to admit
they ran it dry, but
but that it was one of the very, very few times that you'll see Roger Penske's crew make some sort of mistake. Oh, right there. Weldon had to climb out of the throttle as he thought Sam Hornish was going to give him a little chop down there. Got out of the throttle, didn't lose a lot of ground, but as you can see, just the slightest lift cost you 6-8 car lengths.
Now on lap 22, it's Hornish, Castroneves, Weldon, Dixon, Carpenter is still in 5th, Kanaan is 6th, Franchitti is 7th, Matsuura is 8th, then Andretti is up to 9th, Scott Sharp is 10th, Jeff Simmons is 11th. Danica Patrick is 12th, Vito Mira is 13th, Hurt is 14th, and it's Schechter, Rice, Fisher, Buckman, and Marty Roth. This track is very, very bumpy. They've had a lot of problems over the years with this track. It's a relatively new track, but they've resurfaced this track like 3 times because here in northern Kentucky, it's very cold in the wintertime. The ground absorbs the water freezes, the earth moves, and this track has gotten very rough.
Yeah, and there was some talk that they didn't put the right kind of underlayment on it, but they have done something in the last couple of years, and it's much better than it was at first. So right now, it's not nearly as rough as it was the first 2 years they ran it.
Now Weldon starts to close in from his third position on Castro-Nevis. And look at him still too wide back in the mid-pack area.
Yeah, back there after the first 4 or 5 cars, they're still battling each other very, very hard. That's Carpenter leading that whole group, and there's Danica Patrick.
Here's Danica and a replay of Simmons as they almost got together on the racetrack.
Oh, boy.
That's about as close as you can get without hitting each other.
And those two were teammates as well. So, yeah, she was a little nervous. She couldn't go any lower, though. If she'd gone below that white line, there's a change in banking down there. You go below there,
it flattens out in a hurry.
Yeah, you're going to be in big trouble. So.
The banking is 14 degrees in the turns, 4 degrees in the front. They call it a straightaway, but it's really not, and 4 degrees in the backstretch.
Yeah, and once she got out of the throttle and lost that 4 or 5 car lengths, she's had trouble catching back up with that group. Although I think she is catching them now. Mira seems to be not handling. He's certainly hoping that the first pit stop he can make some changes and get that car handling better, because he's fallen back pretty steadily and not running nearly the kind of lap times that he had want.
Well, Scott Sharp looks to the outside of the Simmons. And that's the battle for the 10th spot. As he goes around, and here comes Danica.
Yeah, Danica, once she got her foot back in the throttle, remember, you're flat out all the way around. And when you lift, Simmons had to lift a little bit right there. She went on around him very quickly. He hit that little bump, had to get out of the throttle. And look what happens when you just climb out of the throttle. 1, 2, not 3, but 2 cars went around him.
Well, there's Sarah with the autographed helmet. Sarah back right now in the 17th position.
Yeah, this car, again, has not had all the best of times this year. They've had 2 different drivers. Ryan Briscoe did very well in it on a road course, but on the ovals they have struggled. They came down and tested, as you said. They thought they had a handle on it, and they actually ran pretty good in practice and qualifying yesterday. But this morning we were listening to some of the things she was saying on the radio, and she just wasn't happy. She said it wasn't nearly as good today as it was yesterday. The right front was working much harder than she really wanted it to.
Back up in front, it's still all Penske, but which Penske drivers are going to be this lap? They've kind of tossed it back and forth. Castro-Nevis led the first 5 laps. Then Hornish took over for about 12. Then Castro-Nevis took it back. Hornish took it back. And look at this. They're going to 3 wide. Look at Weldon on the high side. He's up there in no man's land.
And there's lap traffic.
They're trying to get by Marty Roth. They're going to make a sandwich out of Marty Roth.
Wow.
Marty just wanted to go someplace and hide.
I don't think he was expecting that at all. There was cars on each side of him, cars behind him, and cars in front of him all at the same time.
Well, you saw what happened as Castro-Nevis got shuffled back to 3rd position. Weldon goes to 2nd. So you've got Penske, Ganassi, Penske, Ganassi.
Yeah, that's Hornish who got shuffled back. So he just got kind of caught on in the wrong spot at the wrong time. And Castro-Nevis continues to lead, but the 2 Ganassi cars are looking much stronger here in the race than they looked all weekend in practice and qualifying. They were not at all strong except for this morning's practice. Dixon was extremely quick this morning in practice, had the quickest time in this morning's practice, as a matter of fact.
Look at Dixon on the inside of Hornish. This is for 3rd spot.
Wow.
Hornish very high on the racetrack.
Yeah, that's strong. He's really strong here. That's good. And whatever they did to Weldon's car, he was not strong. He was, in this morning's practice, he was not happy with the car. And he said he had a lot of confidence in his engineers. You can tell that he does, because they fixed that race car.
They run side by side down this backstretch into the 14-degree banking of the corner. And they are still riding almost side by side for 3rd position on as they complete lap 34. 34 of 200 scheduled here this afternoon.
Hornish just doesn't give up. This is the best side-by-side racing we've seen for several weeks.
Dixon finally took that position, so once again it's Castro-Nevis out in front. Dan Weldon rides 2nd, then Dixon, then Hornish, and Carpenter continues to ride back in 5th position.
they are having one heck of a race.
There's a great big gap between 4th and 5th now on the racetrack. First 4, in fact, there's 8 seconds, 7.5 seconds between Sam Hornish in 4th and Ed Carpenter in 5th. So these guys are having a great shootout up in front. Then there's some good action back in the pack.
Yeah, with these guys running this close in this race, every little thing is going to make a huge difference during this race. How you get through the traffic, how you get in and out of the pits, all those things are going to make a big, big difference.
And really, Larry, you go to school on the guy in front of you, but where that guy may not be handling right now, by races end after a couple of pit stops, that car will be handling totally different.
Well, we're on lap 43 right now, so they're going to have about another 7 or 8 laps. They're all going to be making pit stops. They're all going to be making adjustments, trying to get that little bit of an advantage. It's so difficult once you start to race to get any kind of just a small advantage where you can pull away from somebody or get that lead. What you have to do now, you know what the other guys are doing, so you got to make your car, if you're going to run that outside line, you got to make your car a little bit better in that outside line. You got to, if you run the outside line here, it's usually a little rougher. The bottom line is a little smoother, and you can see right there the huge difference. There's a whole straightaway. They're just coming off of 4 as the other guys are going into turn 1.
Well, they're stacked up behind Marty Roth right now as Carpenter goes by, and here comes Kanan and Matsura. And then look at the blue and white number 26 of Marco. Marco's up to 8th position.
Yeah, we got 10 cars there, all running nose to tail, all in the same lap, battling for 5th through 15th, really.
I keep forgetting to ask Marco why the one red glove and why the one blue glove.
I don't have a clue.
Must be some significance to that.
I have no idea, but I'm sure it'd be interesting to see if someday he has blue. He switches them, puts the blue one on the right hand.
Well, I got a feeling he's got a pair just like it someplace.
And of course, there's his dad, Michael. He's watching all 4, but I'm sure a little closer watch on this guy right here, his son, Marco. As he's part. This is the 3rd race in a row, as we said earlier, that he's had a terrible qualifying lap, and then he's come back to race pretty well. So whatever they haven't figured out in the qualifying, they've figured out pretty well when it comes to race time.
Well, there's going to be a shakeup in that team next year because Herta has elected to go road racing next year, and that seat will be filled by Danica Patrick. There is some question as to whether Franchitti will come back and run this series for that team next year, or will he go road racing?
Well, he's been very diplomatic about that, but I think
he wants to go road racing.
He'd like to go road racing. I think he likes the road racing much better than the ovals, but I'm not sure it's going to be his choice. I think there are a lot of other factors going to go into whether that's happened. But they just announced this week that Danica Patrick has Motorola as a sponsorship for this team. A huge amount of money, a 3-year contract. It's going to make her one of the highest, if not the highest paid driver in this series, at least one of the highest paid drivers in this series with that contract with Motorola.
And of course, Motorola has been with this team in the past. You'll recall the car was number 39. It was blue and white, Motorola sponsored, with Michael Andretti at Indianapolis a couple of years ago.
Right. We don't know for sure whether Arjun's going to be on board with her. A lot of rumors about that too. A lot of rumors. This is the time of year for the rumors, as you said. Buddy Rice has been.
That's not a rumor.
No,
Buddy Rice is.
It's not. He hasn't been let go. He's just been told to explore his options, and he says he's got lots of options. He's talked to lots of people, and not only in IndyCar but in NASCAR and other places. And right now he's just looking to see what else he can come up with.
Well, the question we have right now is, will Ray Hall Letterman be back?
Well, that's
a big question mark right now. Bobby Ray Hall is not here this weekend. He is racing with his son Graham. And of course, that's really his top focus right now, is his son's racing career, whether he goes to Europe next year and works his way to Formula One.
He calls that the A team, and obviously.
I guess this must be the B team.
Yeah, I guess so. If that's his focus, and obviously, where does that leave the rest of these 3 cars here that he has racing in this race today? But
Eddie Carpenter right there in 5th position. He's, I guess, first in class right now.
He's certainly doing a nice job, and I mean he's had some criticism and he's had some problems. But boy, in the last 3 or 4 races, it seems like he's come on very strong.
I tell you what, Marco, talk about coming on strong. Marco right now up to 8th position after starting in 18th.
Yeah, he's just kind of hanging on. He got up to 18th. He's just kind of hanging on. Franchitti right behind him. That whole group of cars, though. Oh, look at this. It looks like already making pit stops.
Pit stops, yeah.
And that's Carpenter. He's the first one to head down pit lane.
And Schechter goes by on the high side of Andretti to pick up a position. So Schechter goes to 8th, Andretti drops to 9th, and we'll be seeing pit stops under the green in the next couple of laps. The first to peel off and head for pit lane is Ed Carpenter.
Yeah, and I'm a little surprised that they've gone. This is lap 53, so they've got to be getting better than 2.5 miles per gallon. Oh, look at this!
Penskes are in together. Now this is rather unusual because normally he staggers these guys.
And Harnish got hard on the brakes to keep from running over. That would have been a big disaster if they'd run into each other going into pit row.
Remember what he said early on. The boss says, no team orders. You can duke it out, but don't bring him back on the hook.
Yeah, and Sam, you can see him really hard on the brakes, smoking the tires.
Good stop for Castroneves. Good stop for Hornish.
Yeah, it looked like both of them got in and out just about the same time.
And there's a caution on the racetrack.
Oh
no. Oh, and it's right here. Pit out. Carpenter. We've been bragging on Eddie and what a great job he's doing, and he spins, leaving the pits, and brings out the yellow. Now, how's he going to turn that thing around?
I don't know, but
you better get that thing out of there.
Yeah, he's not in a very good spot as everybody's heading that way.
Here comes the entire field.
Wow.
Let's see where they're going to go on the grid. That's it, Eddie. Get it out of there.
Now, see, that's right there. That's not a good thing. The undercarriage in that car, if he scraped that, that's going to really mess up the aerodynamics.
If he left it parked there's going to be more get scratched. Weldon just took a splash of fuel. Isn't that interesting? Because the yellow, perhaps, he took a splash.
Stay back on the racetrack. So, wow. Looks like Kanon's going to do same thing. Just took a few gallons of fuel and back on the racetrack. They want to keep. Looks like they want to keep the lap lead on the Penske cars. But what do they gain if they've got to make another pit stop under green?
That is curious. That is curious, Larry.
Well, we'll see.
Let's see how it sorts out now as we go to timing and scoring. We're on lap 58 right now under yellow. You saw that spin by Ed Carpenter in the pit out lane.
Dixon's heading in.
There's Schechter. Are they going to do just fuel?
Nobody's putting down tires.
And not even a full fuel load.
I'm having a little
interesting pit strategy here.
I'm having a little bit of trouble figuring out exactly what the strategy is. Unless I think this is the only way they can beat the Penske team. But
we'll have to let this play out as Scott Dixon comes in. There's going to be a splash of fuel.
Splash of fuel will go too. They're probably what they probably are doing. They're going to try to run till this yellow is just about over. Guessing, and then come in and fill up. I mean, they can't afford to go back green with no more fuel than that. Doesn't make any sense. Well, we'll just have to wait and see. Some interesting strategy.
That's why the pits were not open, we're told. The pits were closed, but they were running out of fuel. So
the pits were closed because Eddie Carpenter was sitting in the middle of pit road. So they couldn't come in, but if they were running out, they could come in only for a splash only. So that's the reason. That's the explanation.
Okay.
Now then they'll all come in and do their regular pit stops.
Well, I was waiting for a good explanation on that.
I don't know why we didn't get that a little sooner, but yeah, I wasn't paying any attention to the flagman down there where the pits were closed or not. Thought there was some strategy, but no, they were running out of fuel. And Dixon, remember, he ran out of fuel last week, so he certainly did not want to do that again. He wanted to make doggone sure he got in there and didn't get stopped on the racetrack.
Well, Danica ran out of fuel too.
Yeah, so they know how costly that can be. So everybody.
Can you hear me on my shift cable?
One of the crews there couldn't exactly hear what he said, but
it sounded like Schechter. Well, we'll sort this thing out now on lap 60 of 200 scheduled. And we'll sort out exactly who's where on the leaderboard after this pit stop, half under yellow and half under green. take up their residence at the back of the pack.
Yeah, they get back on the lead lap, so to speak, by getting to go around the pace car. And there you see them now. They got to go back around, fall in at the end of the field. The pace car will pick up Dan Weldon. He is the leader. He will be the first car behind the pace car at the green flag.
It's the Honda Accord Hybrid being driven by three-time Indianapolis 500 champion Johnny Rutherford. He now picks up the throttle and pulls up in front of Weldon.
And this is a break for those guys. They might be able to get away from the pack and get a little bit of a lead before Hornish and Castroneves can get through the field.
That was Dan Weldon's radio. I know he complained about the car setup, did not qualify as well as he wanted to yesterday, and was not as good in that morning session as his teammate was.
Yeah, he had.
He qualified third yesterday. He really was not all that happy with the handling of the race car.
No, he wasn't. But he obviously whatever was wrong, they fixed it, because he has been very, very quick all day long, very competitive. And of course, he theoretically should have won the Indianapolis 500 if it hadn't been for a miscue in the pit area. He had another time that they dropped a wheel nut when he was leading a race that cost him a victory. He probably should have had a couple more victories.
A couple more wins, and probably should have been leading the point standings.
Yeah, and he's, he doesn't miss that fact, but he doesn't dwell on it either.
Well, you take a look at the Penske drivers, and they will restart in one lap back in 9th and 10th. So it'll be interesting to watch them work their way through traffic.
Those guys.
Schechter will start in the 8th position. There's a look at race control.
That's Brian Barnhart there with his hand up to his earpiece talking. He's the guy who really controls the whole situation here, who gets black flagged when the green flag falls and all that sort of thing.
Well, so far we've had no one black flagged this afternoon as we go back to racing on lap 65.
Eddie Carpenter lost 2 laps with that little miscue down there, so it's hugely a huge cost for him.
But look at Mira, Vitor Mira back in the 4th position.
He got right back up on the wheel after that thing. We'll see if the adjustments he made can keep him up there. And you can see Tony Kanaan right now behind those 2 Ganassi cars trying to hang on. I'm sure Mira is going to do the same thing. Looks like Mira, though, running a little bit wide off the corner.
It could be a case of handling on his car, but we've seen him earlier this season run a very high groove. He seems to like it on the high side. Schechter runs up high on occasion, as does Hornish.
For whatever reason, he is running a little bit higher. And look at this. Kanaan just is not going to be able to stay up with those 2 guys. He's already fallen back 2 or 3 car lengths, and it's only been 2 laps since the green flags come out. These 2 cars, along with the 2 Penske cars, are very, very quick.
Weldon picks up
Weldon would be
positions.
Yeah, in the points lead. But remember, Hornish and Castroneves are back there in the back, but they're going to be working their way through the field and catching up with these guys.
They're still showing back there in 9th and 10th position.
So maybe once you get back in the traffic, it's not as easy to pass as it is when you're running out front. These 2
guys. Your car can handle totally different in traffic with disturbed air than what it does out in front with clean air. Normally these Penske cars run pretty well anywhere on the racetrack.
Just about anywhere they go. And here you can see them. I think they're just kind of picking their way through the traffic as best they can, trying to not get in any trouble. Well, Castroneves does not seem to be doing quite as well as Hornish. He's fallen back just a little ways from Hornish even. Look at Marco.
Shift there on Marco. Just watching reach over there to the right. Shift again. That's something in years past we didn't see on a racetrack this size.
No, it's these Honda engines have a very, very, very narrow power range, so they've really got to keep them up on the RPMs. They got to keep them at 9,900 or higher. Of course, the red limiter is at 10.3, and they hit kind of a soft limiter, they call it, at about 10,200, 10,250. And then at 10,003, if you get that far up, you're going to really hit the hard limiter and shut the engine off.
Once again, we've completed 70 laps now with Weldon leading his teammate Dixon, and Kanaan, Mira, and Simmons still in 5th position. Well, by far, Larry, the best rider of the season for Jeff Simmons back there in 5th position, the leading Ray Hall Letterman driver right now, and there's really there's not been much said on what his future may be and whether this ethanol sponsorship will go back to Ray Hall next year or someplace else.
Well, Bobby Rahal keeps saying that everything is fine and he's going to be back, but at the same time, he keeps talking about his son driving in the Champ Car Series and some of those sort of things. So you
or over in Europe.
Or over in Europe. So it's just really kind of a wonder what exactly Team Rahal was up to. Look at
Weldon and his Ganassi teammate Dixon just glued on lap 74, and right behind the green and white is Kanaan, who has a victory so far this season. Vito Mira with 3 second-place finishes back there in 4th. And Jeff Simmons, the rookie,
Mira's
back in 5th.
Mira's hanging on with these guys, but these two up front and Kanaan have pulled away a little bit from Vito Mira, so the top 3 guys have a little bit of a lead, while Hornish and Castroneves are stuck back in 8th and 9th and having trouble getting through the field.
Simmons' best finish this season was at Nashville with the 7th. He had a 9th at Milwaukee, but right now the rookie in 5th position right behind Vito Mira. Work on lap number 76 of the 200. At first, we had the Penske cars up in front. In fact, they ran 1-2 through about lap 54.
Yeah,
now it's the Weldon and Scott Dixon show.
Yeah, they made their pit stops on 54. So obviously, these guys are getting about 2.6 miles per gallon because they went to lap 54. And that's a little bit farther than I thought they would go, but most of them do it. Of course, they were very close because some of those cars, both Ganassi cars, had to come in and get a splash just so they didn't run out on the racetrack.
Well, the Ganassi cars have completed the most laps coming into today's race. There have been 2,030 laps of competition. Dixon had run all but 6 and Weldon all but 59. Next on the list, third was Herta, who run all but 80 laps. And recall there a couple of years ago when Tony Kanaan finished every lap of competition.
And there was an interesting stat just on your screen, the fact that Team Ganassi has not ever won here at Kentucky Speedway. So this right now is certainly their best performance ever.
Penske hasn't won down here. Hornish has, but he wasn't driving for Penske when he won.
Well, 2 Team Ganassi cars right now, as you said, running 1-2 and glued to each other. I'm sure everybody in New Zealand right now glad to see Scott Dixon up there battling for the lead as he goes to the inside of his teammate right now.
Yeah, but look at Kanaan. He's closed in now. And right there's Vito Mira. So once again, just as we saw before, the top 4 riding right together on the racetrack.
It looked like Dan Weldon moved up the racetrack and just let him go by. He moved up high and let him go on by. As Tony Kanaan back there in 3rd, he's going to take every chance he gets to get in the lead. He's not had his stellar season this year, what he's used to with this Andretti Green Racing team. And right there you saw when he had the opening at the bottom, he went for it. Couldn't make it work, but he tried.
Well, there's Mira back there in the number 4 car. Lincoln Tech, a new sponsor this weekend. In fact, Lincoln Tech is where one of the team owners went to school about 30 years ago.
Yeah, John Barnes graduated from Lincoln Tech. It's a good sponsor. And then look at this. Now we have Sam Hornish
up to 5th position. Castroneves still back in 9th.
Slowly but surely, Sam Hornish has made his way through the traffic, up now working on Vito Mira. So obviously, Sam Hornish working much better in the traffic than is Castroneves.
You made the comment about 8 or 9 laps ago that Elio did not look like he was handling well in traffic.
No, he was having some trouble, and there's Thomas Schechter.
His teammate right behind him.
Yeah, he's back in 6th place.
But here comes Eddie Carpenter on the high side.
Well, Eddie Carpenter's
a couple laps off the pace.
Yeah, I was going to say, he's 2 laps down. That miscue he made Now what Eddie Carpenter doesn't want to do is make another mistake. Yeah, he doesn't want to make another mistake and compound the one he's already made. That would be a huge, huge error on his part, and I'm sure he's frustrated with himself. But there's Jeff Simmons having a terrific run in that ethanol car here today, back in 7th spot.
He's in 7th, and they're on the inside of Castro Neves, on the inside of Brian Herta. That's the battle for 8th. And so he clears the Herta car. And look at up in front, look at Hornish on the outside of Mira. Back to Castro Neves, and he is now in 9th position, make that in 8th position now.
He just got around Brian Herta and moved into 8th, so he is moving up, just not quite as fast as Hornish is.
Hornish is working much better in traffic. There is Brian Herta. Brian Herta, we've already told you that he is leaving this team as far as the IndyCar program next year to run their sports car program. And that was something that he wanted to do. And it could be age, an age factor that's easier for him at his age to go run the road courses than what it is to run these ovals.
Well, it could be. The road courses are actually as physically demanding. But mentally, I think, boy, it's a strain on you to run the G-forces that you're on here for so long. I shouldn't say it's a different kind of physical. Here it's stamina and more than anything else to sustain the G-forces. That's what's really tough.
There's Matsura, and right behind Matsura is Sharp. So Matsura right now is in the 10th position. Sharp is 11th.
Yep, the two Adrian Fernandez cars running right together on the racetrack.
Right along with Sharp now as Sharp has gotten around Matsura. There's Marco Andretti, who at one time was up to 8th position, now back there in the 11th spot.
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Matsura just lost 2 spots there in a hurry.
I didn't see what happened to Marco on his pit stop, but he had to have some sort of a problem, because you're right, he was really up a lot farther than that. And when he came into the pits, they must have had a problem of some sort, because he fell back about 8 or 9 spots during that pit stop.
Well, he's passed by the most cars so far today.
Yeah, if they paid passing points, he'd be making a lot of them here today.
Well, still Dixon up in front. He's led for the 2nd time here this afternoon. 4 different leaders, and all 4 representing the Team Ganassi or Team Penske. As we work on lap 89. And we have a yellow flag flying, the 2nd yellow of the afternoon.
Told it's debris on the racetrack, so no crashes, nothing major, but there is debris on the racetrack, so they're going to go yellow. And look at Sam Hornish, he's up to 4th and was challenging for 3rd.
And welcome back to our coverage here on Sky Sports of the Meijer Indy 300, coming to you live from the Kentucky Speedway in America. Just to tell you that while we've been away, while our colleagues in America have been away, there has been another pit stop, another round of pit stops, lots of activity in the pits. With me, of course, here in the studio, Tim Scott and John Kirkpatrick. Tim, what do you make of this race so far? It's been quite an interesting tactical battle, hasn't it, as far as the pits are concerned?
Sure. I mean, obviously the Penskes have made their way back up through the field, but not as quickly as you might think. That suggests that they have not running a lot of downforce, which means that once they're in the clean air at the front, they're going to be very hard to pass. And actually on these pit stops, they jump both the Ganassi cars there. You can see the Penskes going out. So they've already got where they needed to be ahead of the Ganassi guys. I think it's going to be hard to stop Penske from here.
And of course, where they were didn't suit them, but to be now where they're aiming to be, they're going to be hard to beat.
That's exactly it. And the Ganassi guys didn't pull away as much as the Penske did. You could see that they were running more wing.
And John, as far as Dan Weldon's concerned, we discussed him before the race started. He's actually driven better than many people were expecting. The car, he's been not happy with it all weekend, but suddenly it doesn't look too bad.
It's clearly better than it was first thing this morning. And as I said earlier, he's always been quick at the beginning of the races. But what is interesting, and as Tim alluded to, when the Penskes were out front, they were pulling 216, 217 miles an hour. Then when the Ganassi cars were there, they were running 214. So I think that underpins exactly what Tim's said.
Okay, boys, thank you very much indeed. We are just about at the halfway stage. Let's now cross back to America, rejoin our colleagues once again at the Kentucky Speedway and see what's going on.
On this restart, be Vito Mira, Tony Kanaan, Sam Hornish will restart third, then Scott Dixon and Dan Weldon. Castronevich will be sixth on the restart, then Thomas Schechter, Brian Herta, Jeff Simmons will be ninth. Koski Matsura will be 10th, Scott Sharp 11th, Franchitti will go at the back of the pack, so in 12th position will be Danica, Mark will be 13th, Sarah Fisher will be 14th, and Buckman, Rice, Carpenter, and Roth. Now Carpenter is a lap off the pace, a couple laps off the pace. Marty Roth is like 3 laps off the pace.
Yeah, so I think that Carpenter stayed on trying to get one of those laps back. I don't think he pitted. He's one of the 2 cars that are in front of Vitor Mira.
So he'll be able to go around the pace car, go at the back of the pack. He'll gain 1 lap by staying out. He'll be right along with Danica. Danica on this restart will be in the 12th position.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see. Right, so far today, she has not been quite as quick as some of the other guys. She's been kind of struggling back there in 8th through 12th spot most of the day. Sarah Fisher has already lost 1 lap, but quite honestly, she has done a very good job in that car, a car that's not been real competitive all year long.
Dixon, Weldon, Castronevich, Thomas Schechter, Brian Herta, Jeff Simmons.
Not sure either. It looks like something came out of one of the cars on the pit stop. They took out of one of the cars.
They should have the green the next time by, Larry, on the completion of lap 96.
Sarah Fisher was another car that stayed out there, so she's back on the lead lap. So she just has to hope that she gets a yellow pretty soon.
Yellow. There's Danica. Top 5. She had 2 back-to-back 4th place finishes for those 2 top 5s this year. Let's see what Vitor can do on this restart when he's at, well, look at this. He better get on the throttle.
Wow.
He's going to get eaten up here in a hurry.
He got a very slow start, and Sam Hornish is not going to wait. Sam Hornish was 3rd in line. He's going to be number 1 going into turn number 1. Kanaan 3 wide is Kanaan and Weldon both trying to get around Vitor Mira.
Mira just had a lousy start.
Yeah, he waited way too long. They've got a cone out there. You have to wait till you get past that cone, but he waited a long time once he got past that cone, and everybody else had already picked up the throttle by the time he did.
He's about to lose 3rd spot to Dan Weldon.
Dan Weldon, ooh, he's wiggled right there as he went over that bump, and Weldon was on the outside of him. I'm sure, well, that made Weldon a little bit uncomfortable, and he goes up the racetrack again.
And pushes Scott Dixon up the racetrack. It opens up the inside for Schechter. Can Schechter up? Schechter can't get down there.
Wow, but here comes Castronevich. All those guys got out of the throttle a little bit when Mira took off up the racetrack. It's a good thing those guys were on the ball because, boy, he went way up the racetrack really quick.
Let's see if that car pushes in this corner.
I'm not sure what happened to him in either case. Yeah, both. See, he just can't keep it on the bottom of the racetrack.
Oil bypass open, oil bypass open.
There's some conversation from the crew to Mira. But it just looked like for a couple laps the car just pushed up a lane and almost took somebody with him. Right now Hornish leads this thing over Kanaan. Weldon is 3rd, Dixon 4th, Mira back there in 5th. But he has Schechter all over his rear wing right now. Castronevich is right there as well.
And Mira, now that everybody's around him, he's kind of got a clear track. Look how he moves up the racetrack. He just feels more comfortable up the racetrack. His car handles better out there in that 2nd lane out, and he doesn't have as much problem out there.
Marco Andretti has moved up to 7th position. And now he challenges the underside of Schechter and goes by Schechter for 6th.
And remember, he was one of the last guys out of the pits. He had a fairly bad pit stop and was one of the last guys back onto the racetrack after the
curious. The team really is not talking, Larry, but I'm curious because he's not qualified well. He races pretty well, but he's not qualified well the last 3 or 4 outings.
No, he's had some really bad. Well, there's one time where after the qualifying they called the bullpen. You're supposed to stop and talk to all the news people and everything. And he just blew everybody off, and that did not go over well with some of the officials. But he was so upset because of his poor qualifying time And then he's last 2 times out, he's done the same thing. So 3 in a row, very, very bad qualifying times.
There's Castroneves right behind Marco. Marco right now in 6th position. That's the best he's been all day after starting 18th. Castroneves in the pole position, rides back there in the 7th position, but your leader is Sam Hornish. Hornish, Weldon, Kanaan, Scott Dixon, and Vito Mira. Mira led for led under yellow till that restart came out, and then on that restart he was gobbled up. Danica on the inside of the number 20 and the inside of the number 7. 7 is Herta, 20 is Carpenter. Patrick now back in the 10th position.
And you can see that whole group of cars still hanging very close to each other. Carpenter now on the outside of Danica. She runs up in that 2nd lane as well. She does not get on the bottom of the racetrack, but runs up in that 2nd lane up. And
the 2nd lane's a little rougher. The higher you get on the racetrack, the bumpier the racetrack is.
Yeah, and she gets down in 3 and 4. It looks like she runs lower than she does in 1 and 2 for whatever reason. And I'm sure it's got something to do with the way the car's handling, because she runs both corners. Again, down here in 1 and 2, she runs up about a car width higher than she did down in the other end.
Rick Carpenter still has a lap off the pace. He lost 2 laps on that excursion he took down there at pit exit. Lost 2 laps, got 1 back.
Yeah.
It's real tough. It's real tough in this series to get your lap back, especially if you're off 2 laps.
Yeah, and unfortunately for him, he's going to have to make a pit stop. He and Sarah Fisher are both going to have to make a pit stop here in the next 3 or 4 laps, because if there's not another yellow. So, you know, what they've done to try to get their lap back may actually in the end cost them another lap.
Well, Sam Hornish is your leader right now in lap 108. So a little over half the race. Hornish is out in front. Weldon is 2nd. Kanaan is 3rd. And Dixon and Castroneves. So Kanaan, the only non-Ganassi or Penske driver in the top 5. He's for Andretti Green. He's won a race so far this season. And right now he's back there in 3rd spot behind Hornish and Weldon. Live coverage from Northern Kentucky at Kentucky Speedway. Sam Hornish continues to lead. Actually, so far, Castroneves has led the most laps. There are 3 bonus points up for the driver that leads the most laps. Vito Mir there in 6th position. Marco now in 7th. So Castroneves now on the move up to 5th spot.
And Scott Dixon has just gotten around Kanaan, so he's moved up into that 3rd position.
So right now it's Hornish, Weldon, Dixon, and Kanaan, but Castroneves now in the top 5 up in 5th. Mira has dropped to 6th. Marco is 7th. And Thomas Schechter is in 8th position.
Well, Castroneves, I think, is just as quick as he ever was. He just didn't get to the traffic nearly as well as Hornish did. Hornish, we've talked about it before, one of the best guys in traffic in this series. I mean, on the short little bull rings, he's very, very good. Very tough to beat just because he handles the traffic so well. And he did it again when he got caught in the back of this pack. He got through the traffic much quicker than Castroneves did.
And really, if you're trying to train, school a driver, you can't really train him to do that. It's either there or it's not there. And Hornish has always been very good in traffic. Hornish is a driver that run a very high groove, much higher out there in no man's land. And we talk about, if you go back 20 or 30 years, it was the gas man, the guy we called the gas man, Tom Sneva, that came out of rear engine sprint car racing and was, I think, probably top to bottom, you'd find most drivers saying he was one of the best in traffic ever.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. He's one of the best that I ever saw. And it bites you once in a while. Once in a while, you're going to stick your nose in there, do some things, and it's going to cause you to crash. But it doesn't seem to bother a guy like Hornish or Tom Sneva or any of the guys who have been extremely good in traffic. They just keep doing it race after race, and 90% of the time or 99% of the time they get away with it.
One of the guys, you go back to like Gary Bettenhausen, a guy that was good in traffic. A lot of these guys came out of short track sprint car racing. This is not the case of Hornish. Hornish came out of karts to begin with.
Well, and I think a lot of these drivers drove karts. A lot of them came through karting, and I think that really makes a huge difference and helps you so much, because when you're running a short racetrack like you do with go-karts or quarter midgets or some of these shorter racetracks, you just develop your reflexes so much better than you do by driving bigger race cars because things happen so much quicker. And I think that's helped all these drivers that came out of that kind of a series.
And realistically, a shorter kart track is more of a driver finesse track as opposed to going to a huge, road course, because you can't learn a lot by going fast. You have to be able to brake and steer and handle the traffic.
Everybody talks about, it's easy to stand flat out. Well, it's not that easy if you got to deal with traffic. You take a look at the points as they would stand now.
And that's going to change throughout the race and throughout the race in 2 weeks. This obviously will go into the final race of the season.
Yeah, I think it will go to the final race of the season, depending on how many guys are still in the chase when it comes to the final race. Could be just 2, could be 4, but it will go down to the final race of the season.
There are 50 points up for grabs for the leader of each race and 3 bonus points for leading the most laps. So a total of 159. That's the most points that one can win in these final 3 races.
Well, the big thing that all 4 of these guys, both Penske's cars and both Ganassi's guys, the big thing they want to do is make sure that they finish the races. A DNF at this point of the season would just about put you out of the running for the championship.
Right now in lap 118, it's still Hornish, Weldon, Dixon, Kanaan, and Castroneves. We're still waiting for those pit stops, Larry, so apparently they had more fuel on board than
no, they all came in, so they've got fuel now.
No, I mean the 2 guys. You're talking about Sarah needing to come in.
Sarah and Eddie Carpenter, yeah, you're right. They should have to come in fairly soon.
I would think. The tail of the lead lap. Eddie Carpenter is a lap off the pace, and look at this gaggle of cars on the backstretch.
Wow, I guess.
And Danik on the inside. Oh, that is Matsura. That'll be the 3rd yellow of the afternoon.
He just got way up there on the outside. It looked like he got too high. You can get 3 wide, but you can't get 4 wide. And he was way up on the racetrack. The back end just came around, smacked into the fence. And
okay, are you okay? Yeah, he gave you the hands up. Copy that.
Yeah, he's okay, he said.
That was his Mike? Yeah, he just got a little high in the groove. And
you're hearing the spotter talk to the team.
Yep, he just said he got a little high, which is exactly what happened. There's the replay after he'd already hit the fence and came back down off. You see all the debris all over the racetrack. Hopefully nobody will get in there and cut a tire. You can see right here, he was coming up. It looked like he was coming up so quick on the car in front of him that he had to get a little higher than he really wanted to be. And then once he realized he was too high, he turned the car down. When we did, the back end just came around. See, he got way higher than he really wanted to be. He was coming up so quick. I'm not sure whether that was Schechter or Carpenter, but he was coming up on him very quick. So he went up the racetrack just a little bit, and when he did, that's all she wrote. He got into the marbles, and things spun around on him.
Mike Smeltzer, you heard Mike. They mentioned Mike on that radio transmission. Mike Smeltzer is the spotter, and he was the one that was up there and said, yeah, we gave him the thumbs up that he's okay. He speaks, shall we say, broken English. His English is improving, but
he's much better than he used to be. Everybody heading into the pits. Sarah came in and just got a splash. She's probably going to come back in because she will be back on the lead lap, so that it paid off for her.
She was at the back of the lead lap, wasn't she? She was at the back of the lead lap, I think. And Eddie Carpenter was a lap off the pace.
Yeah, she was on the back of the lead lap. That's what I'm saying. But she did not pit on that last one and got her lap back. She was a lap down before that last round of pit stops.
Let's see now. Remember the last time they short-fueled Mira, and he jumped out and was leading. It won't happen this time.
Yeah, looks like everybody got in and out pretty much
as they came in. So our 3rd yellow of the afternoon. First, Carpenter spun, leaving the pits, brought out the yellow on lap 55. We had debris on the racetrack on lap 89, and now on lap 120, a single car crash with Koski Matsura. He is okay, but we've had our 2nd round of pit stops under yellow, with Hornish apparently reassuming that top spot after the yellow, with Weldon, Scott Dixon, Tony Kanaan, and Castroneves in the top 5.
Welcome back to the Meijer Indy 300 from the Kentucky Speedway. We are currently under our third yellow of the race. It's a lap 120. We can now show you what happened, which is why we went to this yellow, and thankfully not seriously hurt, indeed hopefully not hurt at all. Kosuke Matsuura losing it, just getting up a little high, and Tim, you could explain it better than I can, but I mean basically he made the error, got too high and finished up hitting the wall.
Yes, sure. As our American colleague said, he came in very hot, was catching the cars in front of him, and then tried to just get up high, and it gets very dusty up there, there gets debris, there's not a lot of grip. He tried to correct it, and it's all too late. It's very disappointing for the Fernandez team. They've won this race for the last 2 years, and this year their main guys ended in the wall. Yes,
but thankfully, as I say, no, I mean the car's damaged, but he's all right. That could have been a lot worse there.
Sure, he's obviously gone at a reasonable speed and quite a high impact, but the cars are very strong.
John, as I said, it's lap 120. Brian Herter actually did not pit at that stage, which gave him the lead. What's the thinking about that? Is that a sort of off-the-wall type strategy, if you'll excuse the phrase?
It looks a little so, but more interestingly was Kanaan. They had a really good pit stop, and the Ganassi boys didn't, and that's been that is a reflection of almost their full season. They just haven't been as hot in the pits as the Penske boys have all year. So
when we get back to racing, how do you see this panning out now in the second half of the race?
Well, it's interesting because Sam Hornish hasn't been able to get away as they did early on, and it looks like Helio had the better setup and was pulling Hornish along as he was the two Ganassi lads.
Yes.
Now Hornish is in the lead. They're pretty well stuck together. Helio's it's been tough for him to get through the traffic and back on the at the front end, but I'm sure he'll get there before much longer.
And Tim, what do you make of the way this is likely to pan out now that we've seen, as I say, we're well into the second half of the race? How does it shape up for you?
Precedent tells us that it's better to be out front rather than be the guy chasing.
Right.
If you've got a quick enough car in clean air, that's where you want to be. It's always the gamble, clean air or traffic. Castro Neves has clearly got the quickest car. If you can get to the front, I don't think anyone will get round him.
Yeah.
The question is whether Hornish can hold him off.
Incidentally, we understand that, as you can see now, they're waiting to repair the barrier at the track. There's a slight worry about this safety procedure, which is fair enough, isn't it? I mean, one obviously doesn't want to go racing again while things are potentially still dangerous.
Absolutely not. The safety barrier, the safer barrier as they call it, is actually 2 layers of barrier separated by foam. And what seems to have happened in this is that the outer layer of the barrier has been punctured by the impact. So it doesn't go through to off the edge of the track. There's another barrier behind, but they need to repair that, because otherwise if another car hits it can get caught in the hole. But they're very adept at making repairs quite quickly.
What is the barrier actually constructed of? How is the car punched a hole through there?
Well, it is steel.
Yeah, so it's actually gone through that impact.
But you've got carbon moving at high speed is pretty hard as well, and so it will have made a small hole.
Yeah, and John, I just wonder, this is turning out to be, as we've said before, so often it happens, doesn't it? These pit stops, so much can happen, and so much can be determined by how smart the teams are.
Absolutely critical. When it's all about trimming the car out to run fast, if you've got somebody in that position at the sharp end, then the pit stops are the only thing that keep you in the frame. And I mean, the two teams that have been there all day are still going to be there. Interestingly, Kanaan now got up there, so we'll wait and see if Dario set his car up as well as he thought. Then it's looking good for them.
There we are. That's confirmation. Brian Herter in the lead. That's because he didn't pit, as we said just a moment ago. But just briefly, Tim, let me take you back. We discussed at the start the two girls on the 6th row. Sadly, it's not going to be their day. What do you make of both drivers' efforts so far?
Well, Danica's having an okay day. It's probably where she expects to be, bottom end of the top 10. But Sarah Fisher, clearly the car slightly flattered to deceive in qualifying. The car's not been that competitive this year, and she's running well off the pace towards
disappointment for her, because she's obviously very respected, well liked. Everyone wants her to do well.
She's very popular. She got pole here in 2002. I mean, you know, she can definitely drive and hold her own, but you're limited by your equipment, and ultimately, you know, this is a small team, single car. It's going to be very difficult.
Tim and John, thank you both very much indeed. As you can see, we're not far off racing once again, so now let's cross back to the Kentucky Speedway for the closing lap. So this Meijer Indy 300.
As you said, he wasn't going to win it any other way, so that trying to win it this way is as good as any.
Working on lap 129. Of course, he wants these laps to go by as quickly as they can to get as many laps under yellow as possible. He's wanting the pace car to pick up the speed.
See if that helps us, see if we can stay up here. Now, do you feel like you make a wing change, something like that, good enough to get the car up front? We made a wing change and a tire pressure change on both my pit stops, and we got it better. But, you know, I've adjusted everything in my car, too. We're just kind of running out of stuff to do to fix the problem that I have. So we're hoping Clean Air is going to do it. You know, race cars like to be at the front.
Well, of course, comments from Brian Herta, who leads this thing. You saw the schedule there on the screen. In 2 weeks, we're out in Napa Valley, the wine country of Northern California, at Infineon Raceway. And then we wrap up the schedule the second weekend in September back at Chicagoland Speedway.
For just a moment during the break, too.
Well, it's interesting to see. They've been working on this thing all day long. Still don't have it where they want it, but they're making it better. It's always interesting to hear what the drivers have to say about what they've done or what they can do to the race cars. And once you're out on the racetrack, there's not a lot of changes you can make. You've got a sway bar adjustment that you can make. That's really about the only thing you can do. You can turn the fuel up and down to get better fuel mileage, but as far as the actual handling, you're pretty much limited to that one sway bar. In IndyCar racing, you're not allowed to change the rear wings at any time during the race, so you can't adjust it. You can change the front wings when you make a pit stop, but you can't do that from the cockpit. The driver's pretty much at the mercy of the changes made during the pit stops. So we'll see what happens when he gets back in. We'll also see how long it takes him, as they're still working on that safer barrier up there, welding the hole that Matsura punched in that safer barrier.
It's a 2.4 kilometer track, so it doesn't even take him long under yellow to click off those yellow flagged laps. We're on lap 131 right now of the 200 schedule. And as you say, Brian, to have a real shot at winning this thing would have to have another 10 laps under yellow, make the pit stop late in that sequence. But right now, he is your leader. Herta leads over Sam Hornish and Tony Kanaan. There's a look at one of the Andretti Green drivers.
After that, the guys who we've been seeing up front all day are in those next
really, I mean, he's done an incredible job here today, but they haven't been fast. He really has not been among the fastest cars all year long with this car. And I'm not sure what the problem has been. The last few years, he's always been the test driver for this team. They've always experimented with things on him, and that was always kind of the reason he had to run around the back. But this year, since everybody has the same engine, everybody pretty much has the same chassis now, there's not a lot of experimenting to be done for Team Green, so he's running pretty much what everybody else is.
Well, others right now, we can talk about Danica Patrick back in the 11th position. Thomas Scheckter is 10th. Marco Andretti has been up and down. He qualified very poorly, ran well in the morning practice session, started 18th today, was as high as 6th at one point. He's now 8th on this restart. Vito Mira, who had the front suspension rebuilt in his car for that morning practice crash, is restarting in 7th. And Scott Dixon, who has led on 2 occasions this afternoon, restarting 5th, or make that 6th position. Castroneves will restart 5th, and Weldon is 4th. Kanaan 3rd. Sam Hornish will restart behind the leader, Brian Herta.
It's pretty amazing that Mira he's run very well for a car that was torn up as badly as that car was early. When they put that thing back together, they got it pretty doggone close, and that's not always all that easy to do. See, he's got sticker tires on there right now.
And that's done by measurements, too, because they couldn't test the car.
No, they had no testing after that, so we'll see what happens. Look at the crowd, a huge crowd here, much bigger. They have a big football game here in town tonight. They were not expecting this big a crowd here today.
remain under yellow as we repair the safer barrier, and Brian Herta hoping for another 6 or 8 or 10 laps under yellow to have a shot at this thing. As you mentioned, there was a big Cincinnati Bengals preseason NFL football game this afternoon, and they really thought that that would deplete the crowd somewhat. But we have a huge crowd here. In fact, Anthony Munoz, the only former Bengal in the Football Hall of Fame, gave our command to start the engines earlier today. Right now, each time he goes by that welding vehicle, Herta looks over and thinks, "Hey, let's just take your time over there, guys. The more yellow flag laps we have, the more of a shot I've got to win this thing." You take a look at the season in review. After 11 races, 5 winners: Castro-Neves, Dixon, Hornish, Weldon, and Kanaan. 4 pole winners. Of course, Castro-Neves now with 5 poles this season.
Well, it obviously looks like this is going to take a little while, and in fact, while we're still under this yellow, we have time now to mention a British driver who's having a fantastic season to live up to in the Infinity Pro Series, the Junior IndyCar Championship, which often supports the IndyCar events. That series is being led by Basildon's Jay Howard, who, like Dan Weldon, now bases himself in St. Petersburg in Florida, and it runs a kart team when he's not competing in the Indy Pro Series. In today's race, Jay scored another victory, and he, of course, continues to lead the series with 3 races remaining. There is the result. Jay Howard winning in the Sam Schmidt Motorsport entry by just a whisker from teenager Jonathan Klein, whose father runs one of America's biggest tool companies. American drivers completing the top 10, but sadly no luck for Britain's Alex Lloyd today. He crashed out on the opening lap. So have we got time briefly now to get a reaction from you, Tim, about Jay Howard, because this is clearly a young, talented driver?
Well, yeah, he's been over in the States for a number of years now, plying his trade through the junior ranks. And obviously, this is a tough championship to win. Wade Cunningham, who finished 3rd there, was actually last year's champion and continued in the series. It's been very impressive. So for Jay to be up there ahead of him is in his rookie year is a seriously good effort.
Terrific. Always good to have a young driver just off the fringe of things. We look forward to seeing him on the full stage. Meantime, as you can see, we are just about to start racing once again. They've presumably finished all the barrier repairs. Scott Sharp back in the action too. Let's cross back again, once again, to the Kentucky Speedway.
Boy, the guys
are for 66 laps.
Yeah, he's going to have to nurse it. I don't think that's possible. It's almost impossible.
He needs a lot of yellows to make that last. Of course, we saw some guys and a gal run out of fuel 2 weeks ago at Michigan.
Yep.
This could be a fuel economy run here this afternoon as the green flag flies once again as they complete lap 135. So a very lengthy yellow, a 15-lap yellow for first the single car crash, then the repair of the safer barrier.
Castro-Neves and Dixon already going at it back there as they were side by side. And look at this, we got 3 abreast. Dixon on the inside. No, that's Weldon on the inside. That's Weldon and Hornish up to near the front.
Well, it's still Herta, then Weldon, then Hornish, then Kanaan, and then Castro-Neves.
Wow, as those guys, they just didn't waste any time. As soon as the green flag fell, Ganassi versus Penske started all over again. 2 of them up in 2nd, 3rd, and 2 of them on back there in 5th and 6th.
We've had 6 different leaders here this afternoon. And Weldon's about to go for the lead. He's led earlier today.
Oh, and look how close he makes that run down the front straightaway.
Hornish a little higher, getting some clean air on the front wing as they come off that corner and make it 3 wide down the backstretch. Look at this, Larry.
Wow.
When we talk about Hornish running a high groove.
And that's, but see, Hornish was still in the black. That's where Matsura made his move. Look how close they are going. That really gets to be the narrowest part right there in that tri-oval.
Well, they've gone a complete lap, 3 wide.
Wow. Hornish and Weldon both got to be holding their breath, hoping that nobody.
We're holding our breath right now. We're in the broadcast booth.
You just, and Hornish, I think he finally says, I think I've had enough of this for a while. I'm going to settle back here and do that a little later on.
Yep, look at this. Now
look at this. Here comes Dixon on the inside. He won't let him rest.
And Kanaan's right there.
Dixon goes by. Kanaan was there.
And they're riding along with Marco, who's up in 7th position.
Nobody wants to take 2nd place for granted. As Dixon took advantage, went right to the inside, got around Hornish. Now Hornish comes back on the outside. and Weldon just can't get enough mustered up to get around Herta.
Well, they still run side by side. They gave Dan a credit for leading a lap. Off that 14-degree banking on the 4-degree banking on the backstretch. He has the nose out in front now as they head to turn 3.
But in the corners, that by virtue of the shorter way around, Herta just gains a half a car length every time. And here we go.
Here comes Hornish. Weldon still out in front that lap, but here comes Hornish on the high side. They almost get together.
Man, oh man.
You're not supposed to be driving that high.
Where,
Sam?
Where can you see 3 guys on a bank track like this running side by side?
No racing series anywhere in the world.
And Hornish, as you said, he runs out there where no man should be, and he hasn't made the pass, but he sure made it exciting. And he doesn't back off still. We talked about the fact that once you get out of the throttle, you lose so much momentum, and that's what's happening to Hornish. Look at Castroneves. Now he looks on the outside.
Well, you heard Herta say they were hoping this car would handle better in clean air. Well, obviously it is, because he's in a dogfight up in front. That car's never been that competitive this afternoon.
No question about it. The clean air really helped that car. Now then Weldon's pushed on by him. Hornish got out there, helped him push by. And that's going to make a huge difference for Brian Herta, I imagine.
Your leader is Weldon. Put Hornish in second position. Herta drops to third. Here comes Castroneves.
And Dixon right behind him. No, Kanon's not going to let Dixon get by that easy either.
All of a sudden, Herta has dropped back to fourth position.
And it appears that Dixon is the one that on that pit stop made a change that didn't work quite as well as maybe the other guys did, as he's struggled a little bit more. He got around Castroneves that one time. Now that he's struggling to get back around Brian Herta.
Kanon and Franchitti together in the racetrack in a battle for sixth position.
Yeah, Marco, they're right behind them, so all 3 of the Andretti green cars right together on the racetrack.
Well, up in front, it's Dan Weldon. Sam Hornish rides in second. Castroneves is now third.
And this is exactly what Dan Weldon wants to do. He wants to ride out front, make those guys go by him, and make them go by on the outside. Once you get out there in that clean air, it's not near as easy for those guys to pull off that pass. That's what he's counting on right now.
Weldon looking for his second win of the year, and that first one came at Homestead. And his second at Japan. Also second at Kansas, second at Nashville, and third the last outing at Michigan. So his consistency has kept him in the points race, but probably should have won 2 other races so far this season.
Yeah, and look at Herta. I'm really impressed that once he got in that clean air and up there, and here goes Danica. She makes a move on the inside of Marco.
And this is for 8th position.
Brian Herta has hung right with those leaders once he got out in that lead group, and that's exactly what he wanted to do. That's the reason he didn't make the pit stop. He wanted to get up there and race with the leaders, thinking that he could maybe do some damage if he could get up there and race with them.
Well, Danica goes by on the inside, picks up a position, up to 8th position now. Now you're right along with Marco, and you see Danica down to the inside. And she is up to 8th. Marco is 9th. 10th is Thomas Schechter. Vito Mira, I'm not sure what his problem is now, but he's way back in 11th position, Larry. Jeff Simmons is 12th. 13th is Sarah Fisher. And Marco comes up in 9th position. 10th is Schechter. Schechter's been up and down today as well.
And look at this, Danica Patrick to the inside of Franchitti, as all of a sudden she's showing some strength after that last pit
That's
stop.
happened, Larry, several times here during the mid part of the season, where the first half of the race she's not been that strong, and by late in the race she's in the top 5.
She's certainly, after that last pit stop, she's looked much stronger than she has all day. She struggled back there in 12th and 13th place most of the day, but right now she's once she got to the inside, and she's not letting Franchitti go. She's going to keep hammering away at him on the bottom side. Now then it looks like she's far enough around him, she's going to complete the pass.
We'll put her in the 7th position. And She has Tony Kanaan out in front of her right now. Back up in front, Weldon still leads by an eyelash over Sam Hornish and Castro-Neves. Dixon is back in the 4th position with Herta now laboring back in 5th after leading on that restart.
And Hornish is just out there trying to figure out a way. You can see he runs out to the outside, can't muster up enough to go around, and now then Castro-Neves is going to try to do something different. He's going to go way wide, see if there's anything, if he gets some fresh air out there.
Well, if they were to finish like this, we'd have a tie at the top of the point standings with the Penske drivers at 4-11 and Weldon only 2 back.
Wow, that would be unbelievable to have 3 guys within 2 points with only 2 races to go in the series.
And here comes Vito Mira back. This is the battle with Marco for 10th position. Vitor's had a very eventful day.
Yeah, he's had some problems on and off. He seems like he goes good after 1 pit stop. They change some things, and then he doesn't go so good after the next one. And the last pit stop didn't help him a whole lot as he's fallen back just a little bit.
This on the racetrack now that we're working lap 161. This is the battle for 10th. Marco is 10th. Mira is 11th. Jeff Simmons is 12th. Sarah Fisher is 13th. Scott Sharp is 14th.
Actually, even though Sarah Fisher's in 13th place, this is one of the strongest runs for that Giant Rainbow car on an oval all year long. She's on the lead lap, and she's been running laps pretty much maybe a mile and a half slower than the leaders, but pretty strong for that car on an oval. And Mira
is also auditioning for the ride for the last race of the season.
And here comes
heads in for his final pit stop.
Yeah, it didn't pay off so well for him. He's going to have to pit under the green. He's going to lose a lap. Depends on how it plays out. It's lap 161, so he won't have to make another pit stop. So who knows? He might, on the shuffle, the pit stop, he might get back up near the lead pack.
We'll go a lap off the pace. And back up in front, Weldon leads Hornish. Weldon won earlier this season.
Everybody else
season opener was his at Homestead.
Yep, everybody else is going to have to make a pit stop here in the next 20 laps or so. So might put Herta in a pretty good position. It's going to be a very interesting thing. And he may not come in if they have a yellow and everybody else pits anyway, and he'd be back in the lead.
Well, they've gone now some 42 laps since their last pit stop, so we're talking another probably, 10, 12, 13 laps before the last round of pit stops in this race. 162 of 200 laps with Weldon, Hornish, Castro-Neves, Dixon, and Kanaan. Now Patrick has gotten around a couple of drivers. She is up to 6th. Thomas Schechter is 7th, so now he's on the prowl.
Yeah, this battle up front between Weldon and Hornish has pretty much been the same. Dixon has run back there in that 4th spot, has about 4 or 5 car lengths behind Castro-Neves. He hasn't been gaining much either. Those 4 cars pretty much been staying about the same distance apart for the last 10 or 15 laps. Hornish challenged a little bit a few laps ago, but he just doesn't have enough to go around the outside, which is what he's going to have to do to get in the lead.
45 laps since the last pit stop, so how far will they go under green?
Well, they'll go at least another 10 at least. They'll go to 55. They'll go as long as they can, hoping for a yellow.
So they see the fuel pressure gauge start to vary in the cockpit.
Those first 4 guys, pretty much like they did at the beginning of the race, have pulled away from the rest of the field. Ganassi and Penske all on their own.
Once again, it's Weldon, Hornish, Castro-Neves, and Dixon. Patrick now up to 5th position as she gets around Tony Kanaan. Live coverage from Kentucky Speedway. A strong late race charge by Danica Patrick, who Larry is up to 5th position now. She's gone around Tony Kanaan. Now Tony Kanaan just went back around her, so she's having a good battle out there, but right now in 6th spot.
Yeah, those 2 have been battling back and forth. Each lap it's been somebody different, but they've been running very hard and very close together for the last 3 or 4 laps. And here comes Vito Mira, and he's all of a sudden right up in the hunt, as he fell way back at the beginning of the segment, and now he's back right with them.
Well, he goes to the high side and makes it 3 wide into the corner. is 5th, 6th, and 7th on the racetrack.
Danica gets a big run. She's going to try to get down to the inside. Now she had to lift out of the throttle. That's probably going to cost her position as Mira's going to go around to the outside. She tried to sneak by on the inside. Kanan pretty much closed the door on her. He was so close to that white line, she was going to have to go below the white line. Of course, that's not supposed to do that, so she had to get out of the throttle.
Look at this, back at the front, side by side for the lead. Hornish on the high side, Weldon down low, and right behind them is Castro-Neves.
Well, I said I didn't.
Let Hornish lead that lap.
I said I didn't think Hornish had had enough to go around the outside. He'd been following him for the last 10 or 15 laps. But boy, all of a sudden, he put that thing in overdrive, just went to the outside.
Well, now, is he showing himself he can do it, or showing Dan Weldon I can take you on the high side?
Well, I'm not sure. I think he's just trying to get in the lead. I think he's racing as hard as he can race. He wants to know what's going to happen at the end of the race if it comes down to this. And remember, before, he's done this sort of thing before, just to figure out exactly what he's got to do and where he's got to be to cross that finish line in first. He's really been one of the best in this series at just being in the right place at the right time on the last lap. And I think right there he was just kind of testing to see what he had if he got out there on the outside.
Okay, 52 laps since the last pit stop. We're on lap 174.
Well,
they're holding out for a yellow, but they're within probably what, 5 or 6 laps of making that final stop.
Yeah, they're going to have to. They're going to have to be in before too much longer. You can bet that every strategist down there is doing the fuel mileage thing, trying to check and see exactly how far they can go. Remember, Dixon ran out the last time out, so they don't want to make that mistake again.
Lap 175. Weldon, Hornish, Castro-Neves, and Dixon.
They're probably not going to take a full fuel load on too. We'll see if they put on tires, but they only have to run another 25 laps, so they do not have to take. All they've got to take on is about 15 gallons of fuel. So when they come in, they only have to take about a half a tank of fuel in order to make it to the end of the race. So whether they take tires or not might be a big decision as well. I doubt if they do. They're probably going to do a timed pit stop and get back out as quick as they can.
In that shot, Larry, notice the cars up in front. Traffic will play a role before they make this pit stop.
And look at Dixon. He all of a sudden is right in the hunt as he's on the outside of Castro-Neves trying to move into third.
Dixon looking for his 3rd win of the season. Weldon looking for his 2nd.
Hornish
55 laps since their last stop. And a huge lead between 4th and 5th position. In fact, we saw this early in the race when those guys just kind of ran away from the field. And right now there's some 6 seconds between Scott Dixon in 4th and Tony Kanaan in 5th.
Yeah, these 4 guys are much quicker than the rest of the field here today. There's no question about that. Have been since the green flag fell. And look at this. Hornish is going to get around. Cross the finish line first that time.
Look at Sarah and Scott Sharp running side by side in front of your leaders.
Yeah, that could cause some problems once they catch them. But Dan Weldon just does not give up. He's just so tenacious. He says, if you go around me, you better get around me and pull back down to the bottom, because I'm staying right here and I'm going to make you do it the hard way. And that's exactly what he's done as we ride along with Sarah Fisher. Look back at
Sarah's car, looking back at your leader, Dan Weldon. They've gone now 58 laps since their last pit stop. Sarah stays down out of harm's way.
They're talking to Sarah Fisher. They're telling her, more lap, more the leader's coming.
Sarah told me this week she really had high hopes to finish in the top 10. She's running in 13th position right now.
I think that team...
Spotter letting her know where the drivers are. She stays out of the way, lets them go on by.
You know, as we just said a few minutes ago, I think that team's got to be very happy. This is, even though they're a lap down and she's not going to be in the top 10, it's still one of the best performances for that car on an oval all year long. I mean, they have hardly ever finished on the lead lap.
Well, they've struggled even with Buddy Lazier driving. Buddy's a former Indy 500 champion. He's won the IRL championship. But they have struggled this season as they go by Scott Sharp now. 181 laps complete, about to complete lap 182.
Yeah, Dixon's gotten around Castroneves. Castroneves has fallen back.
Larry, 61 laps since the pit stop.
They can't go much longer. Some of those were under the yellow. We probably miscalculated because some of those were run under that yellow. As a matter of fact, several of them were. But it's going to be definitely at this point a splash and go whenever they do come in the pits. They're not going to change tires. There's less than 20 laps to go.
And tucked in behind, stacked up, we should say, behind Herta. Herta, of course, was leading on that restart.
And this is just about going to do him in. If he could have stayed on one lap down, he might have had a chance. But with everybody going around him for the second time, he's not going to make up 2 laps when they all come in and make their pit stops.
Just under 17 laps to go. I'll make that 16 laps to go. Hornets looks to the high side. Right along with Weldon.
I wish I had kept track of how many laps they ran under the yellow, because you can get about 2 yellow laps for every 1 green lap. And here they come.
They come.
Here they come.
Goes in the pits first. Here comes Weldon. Here comes Hornish.
Well,
Penske does stagger his drivers this time.
This is going to be the race right here. First one out of the pits wins this race.
Unless the yellow comes out.
Unless the yellow, that's right. And anything can happen. But I believe it's going to be a timed pit stop. They got a tire out there, but I don't think they're going to change tires. This will be a timed pit stop. That cost him.
That cost him. That could cost him.
He's too far away from the fuel. He couldn't get it in. That'll cost him big time. They had to move it over.
My.
That is, again, about the third
time this
pit stop this season that cost probably is going to cost him the race.
No, I saw that car going in. I thought that was the.
Well, we were on board with him, and it looked like he jerked the wheel. And I was like you. I thought he jerked the wheel and
lost control.
Lost control.
That was Scott Dixon coming in. Here comes Castroneves. So we'll see how things shake out the final 10 laps of this race.
Maybe Scott Dixon could have better luck when he gets into the pits and get back out as Castroneves is coming in, because if you can get a quick pit stop and get back out in front of Sam Hornish, you're going to make it very difficult for him. Either one of these 2 guys could also make it difficult for him.
That's how you do a time stop.
Yep.
That's how you do a splash and go. There goes Vito Mira, and there goes Tony Kanaan. And guess who's leading? Marco Andretti was leading this thing. He missed the pit entrance.
He missed the pit entrance. So
our 7th leader of the afternoon, and he misses the pit entrance and goes to the grass.
Well, he's going to stop. There'll probably be a penalty for this. He'll probably get a drive-through penalty because he missed the pit entrance. So there's 2 errors made, and the error, quite honestly, was by Dan Weldon. There's no. I mean, he didn't get close enough to his pit, so that's an error on his part. Now then, I imagine there's going to be a drive-through penalty because he missed his pit.
Okay, let's see if we can check this out. Maybe he's just too fast.
Too fast. He loses it, goes out through the grass, back onto the racetrack, and wow, he missed it by a mile. Probably didn't do the undercarriage of that race car any good either as he got back in.
All right, here's Weldon's pit stop, and he didn't make it close enough.
No, he just didn't get in.
That's driver error. That's not crew member. That's driver error.
No, see, you got to be able to fasten that thing. You can't move the fuel tank. He got his right front in there, but man, yeah, he's got a drive-through penalty.
Well, he's stopping now.
But stop and go penalty. More than a drive-through penalty.
Yeah, they're checking. See, he may have done some damage as he went through the grass. They went from leading the race as the leaders had peeled off into the pit lane.
Yeah.
Go back out as one of these days.
They pulled him back in, but maybe that was evidently something.
Look at this. Scott Dixon is your leader, Larry.
Over Sam Hornish, so this could be
9 laps to go.
A huge turn of events.
Another caution, and that's for Scott Sharp. Yellow out on lap 192.
Well, this is going to be a dash to the end. We're going to see if Scott Dixon how good a restart he can get.
See what happened as he's leaving the pit area. It's too much speed to come around the cold. Well, they didn't change tires, did they?
That's the third incident we've had, either on entrance or exit of the pits. And part of the problem is it's very rough down here. We've talked about how rough the racetrack is. Well, the pit entrance and pit exit also is very rough. And Eddie Carpenter and now Scott Sharp have both spun on exit of the pits. And of course, Marco Andretti, he went out through the grass on the entrance to the pits.
Should have the green flag out this time.
Oh, look at this. Dixon picked it up way early. Way early.
Hornish stayed with him, but Castroneves didn't.
No, Castroneves was not ready for it. And look at this. It's a good thing he picked it up way early because Hornish was ready for him. Hornish was going to get that big run, but Dixon got outsmarted him a little bit on that thing. But is it going to be enough? Hornish has been very fast all day long.
He's been fast in the high groove.
Yep. Dixon's going to. Oh,
look at that. Hornish has him at the line.
Has him at the line, which is the important spot. And he just goes on around. Wow. He made that look easy.
The race right
there. Oh, and look at Dixon walk up the racetrack. That race car wiggled on him a couple of times.
Hornish coming on. It's going to be a 1-2 finish for Penske.
Castroneves on the outside.
Castroneves will take second position. Can he get him on the high side?
Well, Dixon's car obviously not working all that great. When Hornish went around him, that car kind of walked up the racetrack. He kind of wiggled on him twice going through that corner, and he saved it both times, which was great, but it still was, just you could tell the race car wasn't handling all that great. Hornish is just now walking away from him. Weldon moving up.
Hornish looking for his fourth victory of the season. It's very likely he's going to get this thing on lap 198. We'll see the white flag the next time by, and he has the big advantage now over Scott Dixon. But can Castroneves get around and make it a 1-2 Penske car finish?
Yeah, Dixon's hanging on. Weldon's moved into fourth. That's about the best he could hope for.
There's the white flag. Paul Blevins with the white flag. And now let's watch this battle for second.
Well, I have to say I think Dixon's going to be real happy to come home here in second place if he can hang on, because he had every chance to do it, but Hornish was just so quick. Once he moved to the outside, it was all over.
Well, Hornish will pick up his fourth victory of the season. Dixon takes second. Castroneves third. Weldon, Kanaan, Mira comes in sixth. Then Schechter. Patrick was eighth. Ninth was Franchitti. 10th was Herta. Eddie Carpenter a lap off the pace in 11th. Sarah Fisher a lap off the pace in 12th. 13th would be Jeff Bucknam. And Jeff Simmons in 14th. 15th Buddy Rice. Scott Sharp 16th. 17th Marco Andretti.
How about those last 50 laps?
Roger Penske.
Well, I'll tell you, it was wheel to wheel. I'll tell you, three abreast going into one was something else, but a great run by Sam. I'll tell you, I had a problem with Weldon in the pits. I'm not sure we could have beat him.
All right, we'll let you get over to victory lane. Sam Hornish picks up his fourth win of the year, eighth win of the year for Roger Penske.
Well, that's nothing too surprising. He's the winningest team now in the Indy Racing League.
Well, those two teams were so far superior to everybody else today. It's got to make Michael Andretti really scratch his head, think, what do we have to do to catch up with Ganassi and with Penske? It's too bad that Dan Weldon, as the first two times he lost a race because the pit stops were not his fault. That one, though, you have to put squarely on his shoulders, because he just did not get in far enough. He pulled in, he saw where the tire guy was, and he pulled inside of him and stopped, but it just wasn't in far enough to get close enough to the fuel hose. That was really a tough break, and I'm sure he's not very happy with himself.
Hornish unbuckled and saluting the crowd as we take a look at the unofficial results. Once again, Hornish picking up his fourth win of the season. Dixon takes second. Castroneves third. Weldon, Kanaan, Mira, Schechter, Patrick, Franchitti, and Herta rounding out the top 10. So once again, the points still very tight as we head off in 2 weeks to road racing at Infineon Speedway with 2 races left, and Larry will go down to the final race of the season.
Yeah, it looks like it certainly will.
So there we go. It's been a pretty eventful race, just over as you've seen, and it's Sam Hornish who's won it in the Penske. A lot more still to discuss. We'll be getting more reaction from Kentucky Speedway as well as my 2 studio guests. Stay with us. We're back in a couple of minutes. Welcome back. So the Meijer Indy 300 is all over at the Kentucky Speedway. Just a moment ago, a terrific race came to a conclusion. Sam Hornish, driving a Penske, was the race winner. They also had third, but right now we can hear from our race winner.
Yeah, we had a little bit of a bad break with a pit stop when Carpenter spun coming out of the pits. It put us a lap down, but then the leaders had to pit, so we got our lap back. But had to come up back to the field. Elio and I worked together, got right up there. Yeah, ended up having to try to catch Scott there at the end, and I was upset that the yellow came out at first, but the way it ended up, it's okay. It was a great day for Marble Team Penske. The guys gave me awesome pit stops all day long.
When the green came back out, it looked like you were pretty easily able to pull away from Dan Weldon. Did you have any idea that he was going to be able to lag back and you were going to have that kind of breather those last couple laps?
Not really. I mean, Scott was pretty good, but it seemed like it was good when the tires got up there. And, he had a little bit of a different gearing pattern than what we did. So we thought if we could get him on the restart that we should be okay, and that's how it worked out for us.
All right, Sam Hornish in victory lane here.
So that was our race winner just a few seconds ago. Now let's get the reaction from my 2 studio guests. Tim, first of all, what did you make of that race? I thought it was quite entertaining stuff. Sadly, though, none of us thought that he was going to win.
Well, the 10p's gone for all of us.
The 10p's gone.
Yeah. I think clearly Weldon held the lead. He had the point. He had the inside line. To go round him was going to be very, very difficult for either of the Penske drivers. Then it all comes down to last pit stops, as it so often does. Yeah. And Dan got it wrong this time.
Yeah. Hard to believe that such a basic error could cost him so much. He'd driven so well, and the car had gone well, and suddenly it's all gone.
Well, if I was, in the Ganassi team, I'll be glad that it was Dan made the mistake, not his crew, because he's only got himself to blame. And if the team had got it wrong, he would have really let them know about it. It's very, very crucial to his championship chances.
Well, John, let's have another look at what actually happened, because we couldn't quite believe what was going on as we saw it, because suddenly you could see the pit crew were in trouble. And Dan, this is basically down to him. It's not the crew.
Yeah, he was too far forward. He didn't get close enough to the wall. The hose just wouldn't reach. And definitely,
precious seconds going.
Oh, such a shame. But it's been the story of the season that it's not always been Dan. It's rarely been Dan. It's usually been the team. But
yes,
the pit work is not as good as it should be.
We had another good angle. We didn't see it there, but there was that shot a few moments later of what actually happened from the camera on board, and you can see the panic of the pit crew. Where they were saying, come on, you're wrong, get the car back. And in fact, we can now see that. This conveys it best of all. You can see they're in trouble. And Tim, this is so agonising.
Well, they're beside themselves. They actually react very, very quickly. It's very apparent to the crew that Dan had got it wrong, because the guy at the front left tyre pushed him back very quickly. But I think that it's in the heat of the moment. Dan is incredibly pumped up to take the battle to the Penskes, but you always feel that these mistakes, they've come in before, that Ganassi are always fighting from behind the Penskes. They're always trying to do their best to nip past them, and I think that puts the pressure on Ganassi, the drivers, the team, the mechanics, everyone. And I think this time it was Dan that cracked, but Penske have always got the performance advantage, however slight.
There was a revealing shot just briefly of Dan after the race, though, wasn't there? He looks baffled. He can't quite believe what he's done. He sort of looked puzzled, John. How could I do that?
Absolutely. It's a fundamental error, and he will kick himself all week about that.
Yeah, because we were saying it's so important to win this race. The gap is getting too much.
But it's racing. What goes around comes around. Hornish had a bad time at Michigan with a water pump when he was in good shape. That's motor racing, isn't it?
Yeah, and what about Roger Penske? We heard from him briefly. Will he be pleased with a 1-3? It's not bad, is it?
It's not bad at all. He obviously his main.
He wants one too.
Yeah, yes, he's a perfectionist if ever there was one. His main goal is to have a Penske driver win the championship. They've never won this championship, but actually the way that Sam has leapfrogged into the lead in the points ahead of Castroneves means that actually the Ganassi guys haven't lost that much ground.
Okay, boys, thank you very much. Well, the Ganassi team, they've had a pretty busy weekend up in New York State at Watkins Glen. Their sports car team won the Crown Royal 200 with the former Indy racer Scott Pruitt and the Mexican Luis Diaz winning over Ryan Briscoe, who we've of course seen in the IndyCar series this year. He shared the car with the Italian Max Angelilli. The best British finisher, though, was Scotland's Ryan Dalziel, who finished 8th, and that was for the Pacific Coast team. So that little bit of news takes us to a break. We're back again in a couple of minutes to round things off. Right, let's just get a little more post-race reaction to that Meijer Indy 300. And overall, what did you make of the race, Tim? Did it live up to your expectations?
Well, I think so. We've seen the clear pattern of Ganassi and Penske having a huge advantage over the other teams. I mean, it is. I think it's getting bigger than it was earlier in the year. It's extraordinary that Andretti Green just don't seem able to respond to the other major rivals that they've got. But clearly, it's always a battle for position here. If you make a mistake, you pay, and Penske did the job. I thought it was a good, interesting tactical battle between the four cars.
I asked you before the race started about the row 6 with the two girls alongside each other. That actually, in the end, never really lived up to much, but actually Danica didn't do too badly in the second half of the race, and they were making the point on commentary. She's got this habit of picking up quite well in the second half of quite a few races.
I think one of her major assets since she came into the series 2 years ago has been how calm she is. She knows that it's a long race. She knows she's got to get to the finish. She's actually been very, very consistent. She very rarely crashes.
Yeah.
And she just eased herself into the race, improved her car, and was actually up there, the only car who could challenge the Andretti Green guys.
Well, they were saying first half of the race she was, 10, 11, 12 for a lot of that time, and yet slowly, as you say, picked her way through. And with the end getting nearer and nearer, she started to improve, and actually she was pretty competitive in 6th.
Yeah, she ran as high as 6th. She was up there with Dario and Marco and ended up splitting them in 8th. So pretty good finish for her. And when you compare that to what a terrible run former Indy 500 winner Buddy Rice had, running at the base of the field, she's the only Ray Letterman person really taking the fight.
John, you're on the board of the Motorsport Industry Association. Now, a couple of years ago, the Indy Grid would have had a lot of British-based cars and so on. But now, sadly, it seems to be mainly Italian, American, Japanese technology, and this is a worrying trend.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a top-line category like IndyCar racing, it's sad to see these categories become almost a one-make formula. Lola, we've lost the Champ Car chassis to Panos. That is as much about the exchange rate and being able to control the costs. They felt that if they had an overseas supplier, then they couldn't control the cost quite as much as they can with Panos. But yes, it is a worry. It's the sport that dictates the atmosphere for the industry.
Yeah.
And one make categories, whilst in principle appear to be an economy, very rarely turn out to be so.
So what are we going to do about this? Where does all this go from here?
Well, the MIA was established to give the industry a voice with the rule makers and the regulators. We strive to do that, and as I said, I think competition is healthy all the way around, and you don't really have too much competition if you have only one chassis builder out there.
So that's what's got to change. Tim, coming back to this current race, this current season, 2 races left. Next up, far from the circuit we've just seen, which is 1.5 miles on that oval, which is pretty fast. Next up, it's up to Napa Valley, the wine country in California. Very different type of track.
Absolutely, we got one of our 3 road courses of the year,
which actually make a really great visual change to watch, don't they? I mean, they're fun to watch.
Oh, they're fantastic for a lot of purists. This is what racing at its best. Seeing these guys really ply their trade, turning left and right.
Yeah.
clearly Ganassi have got a very good record on the road courses. They run the Panos chassis rather than Dallara chassis when they go to the road courses. Dixon won at Watkins Glen a couple of months ago. So that bodes well for Ganassi, Weldon and Dixon trying to peg some ground back from the Penske boys.
It's Sears Point in Sonoma in California. Have you personally been there?
Yes.
Yeah, and it sounds great, and these tracks are so exciting to watch, aren't they? I mean, with respect to the sort of ovals we've just seen, that sometimes gets a little predictable, but the road type circuits are just great.
Oh, absolutely. It's a very spectacular circuit. It undulates up and down with some very fast turns, and the cars can really bite the curbs and bump around, and it looks pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And what it does do is it's a whole new set of skills for the drivers. They really enjoy it, and it does open it up. You know, if a driver who perhaps some of the Andretti Green guys are struggling on the ovals, if they get their setup right, they can be right back in amongst the Penske and Ganassi guys.
Yeah, that's the next race to come. What do you think about that?
Well, we have Jim Russell has a school there, so I know it quite well, and it's a very challenging track. The altitude change is really considerable, and it'll be a good race.
Yeah, so big. Will we see much difference? I mean, I wonder if it'll suit one team more than another. How will that sort of type of setup suit the teams and the drivers?
You would have to say it'll suit some drivers more than others.
More than
because,
yeah.
You know, IRL tends to be oval racing with just the odd road course, but you know there are some people in this field who've been brought up on road courses, like Dan and like Helio Castroneves, so they should carry forward an advantage, you would think.
Yeah, well, we'll find out at the end of this month, won't we? But coming back to this particular form of racing, continuing question marks really hang over the future of the Indy Racing Series, and champ cars, of course, many people are saying inevitably things have got to change. How do you see, Tim, that things might change? Will they ultimately become one?
Well, since the topic of unification has been on everyone's lips ever since they split 10 years ago.
Yes.
There's no doubt that we came closer this year than ever before. The boss of Champ Car, Kevin Kalkoven, was in genuine talks on multiple occasions with the boss of the IRL, Tony George.
Right.
However, they haven't come to an agreement. I think there's no doubt it's too late for 2007. They're all setting up their contracts for new races and different races, renewing contracts with circuits for 2007. It's now fingers crossed for 2008. They say, we don't want any deal, we want the right deal. For the long-term future, that's got to be right. But we need one series. And absolutely everyone in the entire open wheel fraternity in America is crying out for it. You just wonder when it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, John, we hear that Tony George has spent an absolute fortune on this series. So, I mean, is he finding that he's too far in to sort of pull out now, or does he have to go with the flow and ultimately face the facts?
There's that. Clearly, it was a statement at the get-go. We're now in a situation where, frankly, neither series is thriving as it should. And yes, he may well have put in $350 million into this series.
That much?
Oh,
of his own cash?
And effectively backs his own team with his stepson. But you know, there comes a time when you've got to say, well, yes, I put a lot of money in, but we're all losing money here, and the show is not as it should be.
Yeah.
And you know, it's egos. Once they get over the egos, and there are strong egos on both sides, if they can dispense with the egos, they'll find a resolution to this problem.
Yeah. So Tim, would unification bring a sellout series wherever they go? Would this answer everyone's prayers to have these two formulas sort of running together?
Absolutely not. I think this is sometimes that everyone
because that's the inevitable conclusion you come to, and yet that's not necessarily right.
In the American scene, NASCAR is king, and NASCAR's growth has come ever since the open wheel split was caused by Tony George in 1995. So NASCAR have rolled through the gap that created, and NASCAR is getting ever more appeal across the board. It used to be a very sort of southern series, and you only saw the other day Juan Pablo Montoya, Formula One driver, signs to go back to America, but not to open wheel where he came from, but he's gone to sign to race with Chip Ganassi in NASCAR. I mean, if that's not the warning sign that open wheel isn't where it should be, I don't know what is.
So what are they going to do about this? How do you see it working out?
Well, the trouble is that now that they're not unifying the series right here and now for 2007,
for next
they're
year,
actually diverging further apart, because as John mentioned earlier, Champ Car have got a new chassis with the panels, so those teams have invested in a new car, so that they're not going to want to change car again.
Because of huge investment in the technology.
Yeah, the IRL teams have loyalty to Dallara, their chassis supplier. They've got Honda engines, Champ Car have Ford engines, so I think the opportunity may have been lost, and it may be hard to regain.
I mean, this year was the right time, there's no question.
One question I must ask you before we sort of start to run out of time, which is any minute now. Dario Franchitti, what do you make of him? Because he was your tip. One or two people saying he's maybe approaching the twilight of his career at this level?
Well, there's no doubt that Dario, if he wants it, has got many years left in him, and he's clearly always had the talent to be as good as anyone in open wheel racing in America. The question you wonder about is motivation. I think last year he was really up for it, and he had some bad luck, and that stopped his championship challenge.
Yeah.
He's found it difficult this year, and you wonder whether he'll carry on and go to sports cars.
So, I mean, what do you think the future? What would your guess be that he's going to do for the next season, for example?
Well,
what's his contract?
His contract is renewed year on year with the team.
So, at the end of this season, it's decision time.
Yeah, and he could stay with the team. The Andretti Green team are diversifying into sports cars with Honda, and he could do the American Le Mans Series and eventually Le Mans, or perhaps he could even go to NASCAR. I mean, he's definitely had talks with NASCAR teams.
Now, I can bring you some hot news that we understand that in Champ Car in Denver, Britain's Dan Clark has just finished third. So that's interesting development at a time we're just talking about the rival formerly.
Sure. I mean, he's obviously the opportunity with the lack of money that's in Champ Car at the moment. It's given opportunities to drivers who might not otherwise get them to make their mark. And Dan is one of those young guys who got some backing, went over, took the plunge very early, straight from F3, and to take third place is an excellent.
Yeah, AJ Allmendinger was the race winner, but I mean overall, Bruno Shakira was second. But I mean, this is a terrific performance by another driver, as we've said earlier. Encouraging to see young talent coming through. Especially,
you know, and as a product, once again, of the British junior formula, you know, coming up through the ranks. Dan Clark did all the series, Formula Ford and then Formula 3 here in Britain. We can produce good drivers.
Let's get your final thoughts then on what we've seen tonight in the series so far, bearing in mind 2 races still to go. John, how do you see it all shaping up next time in wine country, in Napa Valley?
I would like to think Dan was in better shape on the road course. In fact, both Ganassi cars. He had a mechanical at Watkins Glen where Scott Dixon won it. I think there's, without any question, this championship's gone right down to the final race.
And quickly from you, Tim, next time?
Well, I think Dan Wheldon's 17 points behind, the same number that he came into the race behind. He's still in there, but they've got to beat Penske at Sears Point.
Okay, guys, thank you very much indeed. So, as we've discussed, the next race up is at Sears Point. The track really should suit, we hope, Dan Wheldon. You can see that race live in a couple of weeks' time here on Sky Sports 2. It's on Sunday, August the 27th at 8:30 p.m. So that really should be a tremendous race. We hope that you'll join us for that, and make sure you do, in fact. All that remains for me now is to say a big thank you to guests Tim Scott and John Kirkpatrick, and of course to you, our viewers, as well. So we'll leave you now with some of the highlights of this Meijer Indy 300 from Kentucky. From all of us, it's goodbye.